Hey everybody, and welcome back to Ready Steady Play. I'm so excited to be here and be playing a game that I have sort of played before, but not really. We played on the channel 1066, Tears to Many Mothers, and we're playing now on the channel the follow-up 1565, St. Elmo's Pay, which is because 1815 Scum, the third one, is on Kickstarter right now. So you can find it on Kickstarter if you want to get involved. And that's kind of what we're going to unpick here today. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing the game solo first, and then we're going to be playing the game, and then we're going to be doing like a sort of a review, a talk through. And the I had not played the solo mode for 1066. I've now played the solo mode for 1565. So I've played 1066 two player, 1565 solo, and the games are 1 to 2 players. So that's playing at all player counts. Except, I believe, with 1815, you can now get up to 4 players using multiple sets. There's some kind of rule for combining them. And hey, Missios here in chat, Haggers and Eddie are here as well. Thanks for joining me, guys. Missios says, welcome back to Hebs. Yes, Hebs is the historic epic battle system, which is, of course, what this triptych of games falls under, the collective sort of title. So I won't talk too much up front here about the my thoughts on the game or anything like that, because we're going to save that for the review at the end. But what I will do is I will talk about how this is a 1 to 2 player game. It's if it's 2 player, it's head to head. If it's solo, you're playing one side against another side. You're playing one side against an AI implementation, and you've got 2 historical armies which are facing off against one another. And I've got the 1066 mat out again because I don't actually have the mat for St. Elmo's Pay. But you've got 2 decks of cards that represent the historical armies. And so in 1066, it's the Saxons versus the Normans. And in this game, 1565, it is the Knights of St. John over here playing against the armies of the Ottomans over here. And I'm not going to talk too much about history because that's Ollie's purview, and he's not here. So I'm just going to have to do my best to not make any horrible mistakes or errors. That's the best you can hope for. I'm afraid no major insights. Now, Ollie was talking a lot about when we played 1066 on the channel, which was about 3 years ago now. Ollie was talking a lot about all these different historical characters and where they fit into the Battle of Hastings and the different kinds of roles they played and who they represented, and that was very very cool. Like it's the game is very very thematic in the sense that a lot of the detailed elements of these conflicts are represented. Monsieur says there will be errors for sure. Not if I don't talk about them, right? Then there can't make a mistake. Oh no, but I'm running a show. How can I not talk about things? Hmm. But I can talk about mechanisms. I can do that. But the game is pretty straightforward. In your deck, you've essentially got your forces, which are made up of characters and units, and the units can be cavalry, infantry, artillery, or ranged. And you've got 2 other kinds of cards. You've got events, which are like an event card. You play them from your hand, they do a thing. And tactics cards, which are sort of passive cards that you sort of equip in a space off battlefield. Probably need to put this down here. And they give you like sort of a passive ongoing bonus. Oh, and there's also attachments, which you can attach to units or you can attach to characters, and you can sometimes attach to these 3 cards in the middle. In 1066, they were called wedges because they represented the wedges of that pitched battle. In 1565, they're called frontiers because these are the 3 forts that the knights and the Ottoman army fought over. And that's all you're going to get from me because that's all I know. Um, but you got Burgos, Senegal, and Saint Elmo over here, so you can see the cards sort of depict these different forts that are out of focus. that were being fought over at the time. Here's a Sanglia. Did I call it? Anyway. So you've also got this deck of cards here, which are your objectives, and there's oh, don't show the green cards, idiot. On the green screen. Oh, they're green. This is going to be a huge problem that I didn't think about. Okay, so here you've got the first objective, and this one's actually on both sides destroyed automatically. But you'll see there's an A there, there's a B here, so you'll go through these in order. And there are two criteria in the central objective: battle, which is your objective in the two-player mode, and solo, which is what happens in the solo mode. But essentially, these objectives are simply sort of criteria you have to meet in order to progress. Because the final objective in both decks is the Great Siege of Malta. And the game really reaches its climax when both players reach the Great Siege of Malta, at which point you'll start capturing these frontiers. And if you get there ahead of the other player, you complete the objective deck faster, then you can start to gain a little bit of an advantage on each of the three frontiers. And if you don't, then you don't. But once both players are there, that's when the fighting really kicks off. Because what we've got on either side here are these rows, or columns, I suppose. If you're playing head-to-head, you'd probably be sat here and here. But each of these columns is associated with the frontier that it faces, and so these three cards will be facing off against these three, and so on in all three columns. And that becomes particularly important when you get to the Great Siege of Malta, because these cards will be associated with this frontier, which they'll be trying to take. In the solo mode, I'm going to be playing as the Ottomans, and I'm going to be playing against the Spanish Knights, and hopefully I'll do all right. I played 2 games already solo. I played on the easy mode and the normal mode, and I managed to win them both. So now I'm going to play on hard mode, and we might not even get to see the Great Siege of Malta if it's over too quickly. Ooh, there is actually another win criteria. If you... I did mute the computer, right? Yeah, I did. There is... Oh, the music! There's music. We'll put the music on after the rules bit. But there... If we've both got leaders. These represent the sort of the main figureheads in the factions at the time. You probably won't be able to see this very well, and I apologize. This is Mustafa Pasha. And I understand vaguely that Pasha is some kind of title from the period or something. But he's an Ottoman Pasha. And he's my campaign commander. So he's a strong unit, and he has this ability where he can move cards around, which is rarely used in my limited experience. Like I said, I've played the 1066 3 times 2 player. I've played this. This will be my 3rd solo play of this, so total of 5 games across the 2 of them. But you've also got Jean Parisot de Valette, who I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but he's the leader of the Knights of St. John. And, at 70 years old, in the year of the siege, La Valette had devoted his whole life to the Order of St. John. Devout, wise, intelligent, tall, and well-made, of commanding presence, and he carries his dignity of Grand Master, says Francisco Balbi. 70 years old. Wow, he looks great for a 70-year-old. Probably all that heavy armor. Alright, keeping him in shape. And that was this guy, who also starts on the battlefield. He's just a regular character. But he's a big fan of his commander. Anyway, the point is that these commanders, if either of them die, then the game ends prematurely, and the person whose commander died is the loser. So, normally you decide which frontier you're going to commit your commander to, and in the solo game, instead of the AI doing that, they get a free unit. They get these galley slaves set up in the front and center, and they've got this action Bloodlust, which the computer doesn't use. And I say computer, I mean the AI, the solo character. And then we've got the character here in the middle, and we've got the leader at the back. Yogi B. Bear says, the art is amazing. Is the game any good? Well, Yogi, you're going to have to stick around to the review section at the end for that information. But also, this is the game. Here. Blam. 1565, St. Elmo's Pay. And it is the follow-up to 1066, Tears to Many Mothers. So, there you go. Those are the two games that are currently in the series. Third one's on Kickstarter right now. So, should you back it? That is a question we will answer once we get through the solo mode playthrough. And if you don't want to sit and watch me play the solo mode, Yogi, you can always come back at the end. Hegger says, given that Mike's going to be playing on hard mode, we'll probably find out in 5 minutes. That's actually probably correct. I barely scraped through the normal difficulty. But I'll tell you why I'm stepping it up to hard in a minute, actually. And I'll give you a little editorial note there as well. But I don't know how the solo mode worked for 1066, but I noticed that they came with this big solo rondel in the solo mode for this. This rondel doesn't exist in 1066, but it does in 1565, and essentially it tracks the game rounds, and it tracks the resources that your opponent earns. So you can see, you can track your game round and also your difficulty rating. And so here's the thing, I played on easy, and you can see that the AI starts with -1 resource. And the resources are... Ooh, I've got a hand of cards here. The resources are used to play these cards. So the cost is this up here in the top left corner of the card. And so at the beginning of the game, the AI actually starts with a net of 0. Because there's also a little green resource symbol down here on the right of the cards. And I'm showing you on this camera because it won't show up on the green screen. So there you go. That's the cost. And if they have this symbol, then they produce resources. You can see that they don't all have the green symbol. So the resources are important. So the computer starts on a net of 0. He's got 1 on the table, or the computer, I don't know. It has 1 on the table, and it's also got -1 for the first few levels of difficulty. It means it starts on 0. The thing is, I found that on easy and on normal, you can see it takes a little while to ramp up. And I actually found, so you don't, around 4 on normal before it actually gets up to 1. It can't actually go down to 0. So if I kill this guy here, then they don't go down to -1 because you can't go below 0. But basically, it can't really start playing cards till it gets to 1. So I found that on normal, I was able to take this guy out, and then it actually stayed on 0 until effectively round 6. And on easy, it was on 0 until round 8. And that was honestly kind of dull. Like, just the beginning opening of the game was very, very slow. And I noticed actually on the Kickstarter page for the game that they've said that they've implemented new solo rules in 1815 to speed up the beginning of the game. So, fingers crossed that gets you into the game faster. But we're not doing that. We're playing on the rules as included in the book for this game, which means that we might have a rather slow opening. That's fine, because honestly, I'm not very... In the 2-player game, you can also lose if you run out of cards in your deck. If you go to draw cards and your deck is out of cards, you lose the game. And the same is true for the player in the solo mode, but not true for the computer. So the computer will get through their deck, probably on the first few rounds, and then it's just reset. And there's this whole idea that you keep the order the same, so that if you see something, if you know the cards well enough, you see something particularly bad in there, you might be able to sort of memorize whether it's near the top or the bottom and when you might need to prepare for it. I don't know the cards that well, and I'm not going to be able to do that. So, so there's that. So I'm looking at my opening hand here, and I'll show you guys under the table here. So as a player, and I believe this is also true in the 2-player version of the game, I get a chance to actually mulligan this whole hand if I want to, and it's honestly not a great starting hand, but it's got a resource in it, so I'm quite tempted to keep it. And if I mulligan it, of course, that's another 4 cards I've lost. So it hastens the end of the game for me. And I literally won normal mode on my last card, so I'm kind of tempted to just keep these and play them out. Or play the mercenaries and sort of hope for the best. Yeah, this card is really great, and I'm bummed out I've got it now. It says take control of an enemy infantry and place it and place it in the same frontier on your side. And so that's kind of a bummer because later on that's great when you can take control of like 5 cost Spanish units. All of the costs go from 0 to 5. And then I've got this great Basilisk as well, which is a huge cannon, which is a 4 cost unit, and I'm not going to get to play it out before I get rid of it. Because if you don't have enough resources, which is, as we discussed, the little green icon, which you can't really see here, but once you play the unit out or anything else with the resource cost, you're going to have to tap it. Sorry, I mean tire it to play cards out. If you can't afford to play any cards, you can always discard cards from your hand, play cards as well, so you can make up the deficit that way. But you've got to think about that because you only draw 2 cards a turn, so they are valuable indeed. So I'm going to get started. The very first thing that happens I've got my little cheat sheet here. These are some notes I made on the solo mode stuff. So this is just reminding me on what the AI does. Ooh, and I got my little summaries here as well, just to keep me on track, make sure I don't make any mistakes. But actually, I don't need that. This is for later. That's for the battle summary here. Is for when we get to the battles over the frontiers. You have a might fight and a zeal fight as well. Okay, I don't think you guys can hear that. I can hear some people having a very good time in the street outside. Instead, we'll have some music. Alright, here we go. So, the very first thing that happens in a round is I draw 2 cards. Except, those are the standard rules for the 2-player game. There are advanced rules for the 2-player game where you draw 3 and discard 1, where you draw 4 and discard 2. Of course, playing with these rules will hasten the game end because you'll burn through your deck faster. However, they recommend in the solo game that you play with at least one of these variations. So I'm going to be playing with the draw 3 and discard 1 variation, which I've been doing for all of the solo games. So I can have a look at my hand here. Oh, dang it. Enough. I want to find my attack, oh good. I can already tell this is going to be a problem. So, I've got the Janissaries, who are a great combat unit. So they're relentless as well, which means I can actually discard them and then play them. But in order to do that, they have to be on top of my discard pile, so I'd have to play them from the discard. And I actually have to have enough to do that. I don't think I'm going to have enough cards to do that. But, I mean, it's a cool combo because you can discard them to pay for something and then play them from the discard. But that means I need to be able to play something and then have enough leftover resources to also play them. At this stage of the game, I'm really just looking to complete this objective here. Now this one on top is automatically played out. And you can go... when you're setting up the game as standard, you'll go through these in alphabetical order, A through G. But you can also, it says, shuffle up all of them except for G. And you can put the others in a random order on top. But, I suppose that would... I presume that there is an order to these cards that is actually based on historical events. So right now we're doing the Siege of Rhodes, although I'm not sure what that was. A siege on the way to the fighting of the knights. That's clearly the knights on the front. Oh wait, there's some story, look. The young Suleiman throws the Knights of St. John from Rhodes after a prolonged siege similar to that of Malta. The siege ends with Suleiman magnanimously allowing the surviving knights to leave the island with honor. I have a feeling like that magnanimous attitude is not going to last. Somehow, I've just got this feeling. So, here's the Spanish objective as well. The Ottoman Empire clashes with Europe in a long series of conflicts. After landing on but failing to conquer the heavily defended Isle of Malta, Target instead completely depopulates neighboring Gozo, enslaving all 5,000 inhabitants. That's not very nice. That's not very nice at all. Okay. So I've drawn the Janissaries, which are this quite good combat unit. I've got Holy Men, who up my zeal, but when they die, they... Oh, and also when you play them, you draw a card, which I like, so I can kind of like play them, and then they kind of replenish their own cost. And we got the Mishandled Incendiary, which I can only assume is based on an actual event. Wow, do I need to do a seizure warning on this? Good lord. It says deal 3 damage to one non-leader enemy. So this is basically an event where the knights are moving gunpowder around one of their forts, I think, and they dropped the gunpowder or something that blew a bunch of them up. So you can use this to blow up a unit, basically. Non-leader enemy, so it could be a character as well who dies. So that's a good way, actually, to get rid of this guy who produces resources and slow down their unit population as well, if at all possible. But I've got to discard one of these cards. Sorry, one of these 3 cards that I've just drawn. So I think we could discard the Janissaries, I suppose, and then play them right away. Although they're quite expensive, I'm not sure if they're the best shout right now. Having said that, they have Zeal and 3 Might, so they're pretty strong. So I'm just having a think here. This guy's got a resource on, so playing him out early would be pretty good. So I could discard a couple of cards, play him, and then I'd have to discard another 2 cards to play the Janissary, because I could tap him. So we could actually discard all of these to play both of these 2. Then we could keep the Incendiary to blow this guy out. I like that plan. I think that's a fairly decent plan. I'm bummed out about discarding this event, though. It's so good. Marga says, hey, nice graphics on the cards. The art in this game is absolutely fantastic. I can't really fault the art. You know, it's something I'll talk about later in the review section. Okay, so let's discard these 2 cards here. So, by the way, oh no, I had to discard one of those. Oh yes, the Janissaries. No, wait, but if I discard the Janissaries first, I won't be able to play them. Sugar. My plan fails. Right, but we can just discard the Janissaries to pay for him. So, let's discard the Holy Men, because I wasn't going to keep them anyway. Okay, cool. So, now that I've gotten through the first sort of draw and discard some cards section of the round, I move on to this sort of back and forth. So in a 2-player game, the first player, who has the first player token, would do a thing, and then the other player would do a thing, and then you go back and forth doing a thing, which is either sort of playing a card, activating an action on a card, sacrificing a card perhaps, or activating a card ability. But in this mode, it's going to be kind of the same thing, except the AI just kind of triggers a few little events. So I'm always the first player in the solo mode every time. It's balanced to be that way. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play out the Mercenaries first. They have a resource cost of 2, so I'll get rid of these 2 cards here. So I can put the Janissaries on top, and because of their Relentless ability, which reads, unless sacrificed, they can be played from the top of the discard, I will be able to play them. So I can put the Mercenaries out anywhere I want to. Because they've got a resource cost on them, I'll probably just pop them over here. Yeah, let's pop them down here at Burgu. You know, there is an element of of strategery to this, because I don't really want to lose them. They're my only resource producing unit at this moment, and the enemy will always try to attack my leader with ranged and artillery units, so they'll put them down here first. So if I can avoid that debacle, that's ideal. And now what I can do is I can discard these 2 cards here and tap this guy to play the Janissary from my discard, and I don't really have any particular motivation around where to play him, but let's put him in here, because no, he might die in there. Let's put him over here in Burgu, why not? So, now we discard... Oh! I'm getting ahead of myself. Woo! Before I do any of that, I have to do my AI turn. So after playing out the Janissaries, that's the end of my go. It's the AI's turn. So the AI has a series of behaviors it's going to check. It's going to try to activate ranged and artillery units first. It can't do any of that. So then it tries to... then it just tries to play a card. What it's going to do essentially is search through its deck for a card it can play. And at this stage, it's on -1 resource on the dial here, so -1 resource there. And that means that it's currently on a total of 0. It's got 1 over here on this card here. So 1, -1, 0. So it's looking for 0-cost card. I happen to know there are 4 0-cost cards in this deck. So now we're just going to go through this deck looking for a 0-cost card. I hope they're near the top. And if I wanted an intense strategic advantage, I could memorize the order of these cards. But I am not good at that. Hey, there we go. So, we have drawn the Maltese Swimmers. Local Maltese swimmers, such as a renowned horseman, Luca Braffa, or the legendary Tony Bajada, a Robin Hood figure, volunteered to swim across the bay under the cover of night, frequently ferrying urgent letters between the Grand Marshal and his men at the doomed outpost of St. Elmo. Well, that's kind of cool. Man, swimming is really, I love swimming, but it's such hard work. I think it's probably the best exercise. Alright, so they'll start filling these out in left to right order, right to left order, starting from the front row, unless they're ranged artillery, in which case they'll always prioritize these spaces opposite my leader. And now I can pull off my little combo here, so I'm going to discard these 2 cards and hire my mercenaries there to play out the Janissaries into this spot here. And I'm down to 1 card, so not a great start. And back over here to the Spanish, where they don't have any ranged artillery, so they're just going to keep looking for 0-cost cards to play. There's a cool bit of flavor text actually on the Janissaries that I'll read you as well. Once I've found the card I'm looking for. Ooh, there's that Fire Circles card. I hate that card. Ooh, I dropped a card. Dun 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 dun. What will we get next at the 0-cost mark? There it is. It's more Maltese swimmers, so... There we go. Blam, they go in here. And they have this ability where they can be tired to move themselves to another row or another position, so that's useful later on. I suppose it might also be useful earlier in the game because it can help them to prevent getting shot by archers and artillery. They're also kind of a cheap unit though, so I don't know how useful it is to move them around like that. Unless you... I mean, they do have 1 zeal and 1 might, and actually, given that they're the Knights of St. John, the Spanish actually have remarkably low zeal. So those are the 3 stats there on the left under the resource cost. So zeal, might, and hit points. So that's the hit points are how much damage you can suffer before you're removed from the game, or discarded. And zeal and might are sort of attack values that just fall into 2 different categories. And so that's it. And now what I'm going to do on my turn is actually pass, because I've got no more actions, I've got no more cards I can play, I've got no more resources to spend. I'm going to pass, which means that because I'm the first player, the AI actually does sort of like one more turn at the end, and this is where it would trigger any artillery or ranged units it hasn't already had a chance to use, and then it will activate any end of round abilities. It doesn't actually have any at this stage, so it'll go straight into the final thing it does before sort of ending its own turn, which is to play one more card. So we're going to look for another zero cost card. There it is. It is the Stout Armor. So the Stout Armor is a tactic, which means it's just a passive effect played at the back of their board, and essentially it's a response card. Now the AI doesn't usually play response cards, but this one's fairly simple to trigger. So, sorry, response abilities. Wow. Response abilities, which is not the same as responsibilities. Some units and characters have response type abilities. The AI won't ever trigger those, but it will trigger the response ability of this card because it's not a unit or anything, so it doesn't really have the same effect. So it'll just sit back here, and the first damage I deal to it on any given turn, it will just tire that to prevent that damage. So getting rid of that card is pretty useful, especially in a two-player game where it doesn't actually get tired to use it. So now that resembles that indicates the end of the turn, and so what we're going to do in the next step is to check the objectives, and both objective A's on both sides are completed automatically. So we're going to move straight on to objective B. So objective B for the Ottomans is the Nest of Vipers, which is a military might battle. It's a might battle, which we know from the little might symbol cannon under the B, and this might battle has 6 hit points. There's a little sort of bit of text there under the keyword battle, but we're actually going to ignore that because we're playing solo. So when I destroy this card, I'm going to get to draw a card, which is useful because cards are resources and all kinds of stuff. It says here, I'm trying to read it. Oh boy. The Dwindling Order of St. John, having re-housed in Malta, spends many years warring with the Ottoman ships traveling the Mediterranean. Turgut tells Suleiman that Malta is a nest of vipers. Cool. Yeah, I believe that the Ottomans had a pretty strong navy, because most of the navy cards actually belong to me. So this one's discarded. And the next objective for the Spanish is Payali raids Jerba. Payali Pasha he's, I think, the Ottoman admiral, like the head of their fleets. That's the best you're going to get out of me, and I learned that from this game. Payali Pasha makes a record journey from Istanbul to Spanish-controlled Jerba in 20 days. He easily destroys the defending Spanish fleet and reclaims Jerba, Turgut's old pirate lair. I mean, I like the sort of the flavor and the history on these cards. It's really neat. Okay, so after we've checked the objectives, we advance to game round 2. So on hard, we're still on -1. So I've got just a little bit of time to try and catch up here if I can. What I don't want to do is let the AI get too far ahead of me on these objectives and then it starts capturing these. I mean, honestly, if I just make it to the final battles, I'll be pleased because I'll show you the whole game. But there's every possibility that he just kills Mustafa before I can do that. That would be bad for me. Okay, so back to the top, 3 new cards. And note that I haven't readied my mercenaries yet. And actually, before I begin the new round, I'll just point out that in order to complete these objectives, now that they're battles and not just automatically resolved, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to deal 6 hit points of damage to the objective. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to count up the might on all of our readied cards after we pass. And then we're going to subtract the might on the objective, in this case it's 2. So we're going to take 2 away from our total, and that's how much damage we're going to deal. So if I don't tire my leader, and I don't intend to, he's got 3 might on him. So I will be able to deal at least 1 damage to the objective from that. However, dealing 1 of the 6 per round is not nearly good enough. So that's why playing out these units is really good, and actually, well, it's really important. That's why playing units is really important. And also the Janissaries here have might 3, so that was actually quite good that we got such a strong unit out early on. Oh, do you know what I noticed on the mercenaries here? It says, play another card at cost -1. Support. So I could have actually probably hung on. When I played the Janissaries, I could have actually played them for 2. And I still could have used this unit, so I probably could have hung on to one of the cards in my hand last round. Except for the Holy Men and that card. So let's hang on to the Sapphic Cavalry, because we might actually get to play them, and I don't think that artillery will be made to play it because it's a 4 cost, it's too expensive. Alright, so what we've got here is a character who has a resource on him. So early game resources are super valuable because they're how we can kind of escalate our output. And there are a couple of tactics that the Ottomans get with resources on. I've managed to draw none of them in this game. I had them in the other game, and it was really useful. Now I don't have them, so this is making me sad. So we want to hang on to this guy. It says, when played, draw 3 cards, choose 1 to keep, 1 to discard, and 1 to place at the bottom of your deck. So that's really useful. You know, I always have it at the back of my mind, though, that that's kind of like sort of a double-edged sword, because it also is hastening the end of the game, right? Or rather, my losing through milling my deck. And then we've also got here Levied Men and Pyramid. So they're restless, so they can be played from the top of the discard pile, and they have a 0 cost. So that's actually really useful, because we can basically use them to pay for something and then immediately play them for free. And we've got Pyramid, who says he's a swords elite. That italic text there is typically sort of flavor text. Just like restless. It's a key word, but it's also just kind of flavor because it's explained immediately what that means. Destroy 1 enemy infantry in this card's frontier. While that is useful, because the opponent cycles their deck so much, it's not all that useful right now. So I think what we'll do is we'll discard Pyramid out of the 3. And then I think what we should... And then after we've done our draft there, we can ready our cards. So we can ready this card here. And the graphics is... Yeah, the art is absolutely phenomenal. Let me give you guys a nice little view up here with this camera. I think this should get you a pretty good view there of all the art on these cards. And it looks great on the table. I can't deny that. And if you know about these events and you know these units and things like that, I can imagine this is very appealing. I mean, I find it very appealing, the art and the sort of the historical events, and I don't even know anything about this stuff. Like, you know, when Ollie and I were playing 1066 all those years ago, and he was like, this is the guy that did this thing. And then I'd be like... And he'd look at me like, did you even go to school? So we've also got our guy here. Whilst commanding St. Elmo's Cavalier, the knight Antonio Grugno fired the cannon that killed the Ottoman Master General before he himself was shot at by a sniper. So this guy was killed by a cannon before he was sniped. Poor guy. Anyway, let's get him played out onto the table. So he costs 2. I'm going to put him... I'm going to keep this spot free. And I'm going to put him out here. Why don't we put him in the middle? I don't see any reason why not. He's probably going to be safe in the middle, right? So the reason I'm keeping this spot free is just in case I play this cavalry out at some point. It says this card gains might +1 while in row 3. Cavalry are typically always gaining might if they're in the back row. So that's good. So I'm going to have to pay 2 for him, so we're going to tire the mercenaries again, and we're going to discard the levied men. And then it's the AI's turn. So they're going to be looking for another 0-cost card because they're still on a net of 0. I don't know if they have another one, actually. I think they have 4, so I think they do have 1 more. And after that, we're just going to have to stop looking because they don't have any more. I know they have 4. So I did this already. Dun, 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 dun. Can't find it. Have I got... Oh, I've got 4 out. That's why. The slave galleys who start on the table is one of them. Fine, so we've been through their deck. They're all out of 0-cost cards, so... Here's the thing I got going on at the back of my mind, folks. I know that I need to kill this guy before this goes up to 0. Because if they start playing... If I can buy myself like another round without them playing 1-cost cards, that would be great. Fortunately, I'm hanging on to these incendiaries to blow him up the minute this ticks over. So... I'm going to play now the levied men from my discard using their relentless ability, and I'll just put them in the middle row here. And then it's their turn. They still don't have any ranged in artillery. They're going to search for 0-cost, but they don't have one, so that means that they don't get to do anything at all. Ooh, I forgot to flip over my handy guide. And when they play a card, they would activate it as well, if it's pertinent. So... I think I'm just going to pass at this stage. I don't have enough... Oh, I did play that resource guy. But I've only got 1 resource, and I don't want to discard this. And he's contributing 1 might to the objective. How much might have I got, actually? 3, 4, 5... 3, 6, 7, 8. Oh, that's enough to complete the objective. Oh, that's exciting. That's very, very good. So, I've got 8 might total out on the table, so if I don't tire this guy, I can actually complete the objective, which is great news. My opponent doesn't really tire cards, so he gets through these objectives pretty quickly. Although he's only got 1, 2, 3, 4. He's got 7 might, so he's actually going to be left 1 short to complete his objective. Oh, it's zeal anyway. He's got 1, 2, 3, 6 zeal. So he's going to be able to put out 4. Killing off these Maltese swimmers is actually probably enormously helpful for dealing with that. The zeal, because like I said, when I put them out, the Spanish don't have a whole lot of zeal. But the other thing about this guy is he's a 3-cost, so if I kill him, it'll be a little while before he comes back. Like I say, in the 2-player game and on my side of the solo game, these cards I can never gain access to again. They're gone forever. So that's a thing. But the AI can always replay these cards if it finds them again, which when it gets to like 3 or 4 resources, it's unlikely to cycle the deck. The cycling only really happens when it's on the 0 and 1-cost cards, because there's a lot of sort of 2 and 3-cost cards. So anyway, I'm going to pass. They're going to look for 1 more card to play. They can't find it because there are none left in the deck. So we're going to move on to to the objective stage, where I'm going to complete the Nest of Vipers, because I have just enough might, which unveils the last straw. So this is a zeal battle, and I'm going to get to draw a card when it's done. The Isle of Malta is a headquarters for infidels. An aging Suleiman the Magnificent decides once and for all to wipe out the Knights of St. John from existence. So I guess this is where it kind of pushed it. No more magnanimous Suleiman. The Knights are no good. They have to be stopped. So I get to draw a card for completing the objective. It's more Janissaries. Let's see if we can get these guys out as well, because they're pretty strong and they've got a zeal on them, and I need all the zeal I can get. I don't have a whole lot of it. And over here, we looked at that objective, but we'll just put 5 of these health tokens out to show that he's done 5 damage to it. And so that's completed, and we've checked the objectives, so we move on the round counter, and I can see that on hard mode, the enemy's resources have now ticked up to 0, which means that he's now effectively on 1, because he's got that guy providing a resource. So I need to kill this guy as my first action, which is exactly what I want. But first things first, I'm going to draw. So I've got non-combatant supporters, which is a tactic. The resource on it, it's one of the ones I talked about before. It's invisible, but I can also destroy this card, which effectively means remove from the game. I mean, putting it in the discard isn't really distinct from destroy, but destroy does mean actually take it out and we'll just discard it, I think. Double check that actually. For you guys, so I don't teach it wrong. Remove the card from play and place it face up in the discard pile. So, yeah, okay, it is discarded like this. Destroy is the same effect when a card takes damage equal to its hit points. So, here we've got, you can destroy this card to play a card for free, which is pretty useful. 8,000 non-combatant supporters joined the Ottoman army, consisting of armorers, engineers, sappers, standard bearers, carpenters, cooks, and slave merchants. So it's a 3-cost card, but it's super useful, so we probably want to hang on to that. We've also got this event, which is actually great. Slave laborers. Play 1 card at cost -3. So I could effectively keep both of these cards and use this one and play this one for free. And it says here, these are Rumelian adventurers. They're 1, 2, 2. They're 3-cost unit. They're relentless, so they can be played from the top of the discard pile. I actually really like this unit. It's kind of a bummer that I'm going to have to discard one of these cards. Rumelia was an Ottoman province in southeastern Europe, near what is now Bulgaria. Around 6,000 Rumelian Sapphists and fighters fought for the Ottoman Empire of Malta. Alright, cool. So, we've got our 3 cards there. I'm going to have to give up one of these. I don't think I'm going to have the means to play this and this. However, I'd point out that the Janissaries are just better than these guys. The Janissaries, and they both have Relentless as well on them. The Janissaries have 1 more might though, so given that I've got them in hand, I'm just going to discard these guys, I think. And I'm not going to seek a way to use their Relentless to play them from the discard either. I think what I'm going to do first, because the minute I act, the AI is going to look for a card. The very first thing I've got to do is, well, the very first thing I'm going to do is actually ready this. But then the very next thing I'm going to do, and it's a shame really because I'd like to play this out first. It would suit me to optimally play this out first to get the resources, because I could play this for just 1 resource, and then I could play that for free, and then next round I could tap that and that, play this. But then I would give him 1 deck hunt for a 1-cost card, and I don't even want to let that happen because it's on hard, and I don't want any more nasty forces coming out before I've had at least a bit longer to build up my lead. So I'm actually just going to tap both of these to play this out straight away to blow up this guy. And so it deals 3 damage to him. Well, actually, it does deal 3 damage, and then the stout armor here is actually tired to reduce it to 2. Fortunately, 2 is still enough to kill this character. Just enough. Thanks for hanging out, Eddie, and have a good day at your meetings. So, the next thing we gotta do is now play a card for our enemy. I don't know why I put him back tired. He's dead. So, they're back on 0, so I'm not even going to search the deck because I know there's no cards in there. They still don't have any artillery or ranged, and they've got no events to trigger. This will get a lot more complicated very quickly, so don't worry about it. In fact, yeah, they go up to 1 literally next round, so I've bought myself half a round, if that. But the next thing I want to do is to play, I think, the... Do I actually... Maybe I wait till next turn to play out these cards. So I would discard that to play this, to play that. And it wouldn't really advantage me. It will advantage me right now, actually, because it'll allow me to play 1 more card before he starts getting more cards out, using his automatic functionality, because he's going to go up to 1 next turn. So I'll give up these guys, as much as it pains me, to play this event here. which is the slave. Did I read this card already? Slaves are deployed for various purposes on both sides, and many of the commanders themselves had experienced long sentences chained to the galley oars of their enemies' ships as slaves. Oh boy, history's fun, isn't it? One of the things that's quite funny about the cannons actually in this game, I guess this is probably something to do with the histories of the cannons at the time. But if you take a look, the way artillery works in this game is that whenever they deal a damage to enemies, they also deal a damage to themselves. So like you deal one damage to the card and then one damage to a bunch of enemies in front of it, which is pretty fun, pretty crazy. Like the cannons are so powerful they're destroying themselves as well as all the enemies. Sorry guys, just a little bit of YouTube bust there. Hope you're all still with me. Okay, so I've played the event and we get to put the non-combat supporters down here. Now I might sacrifice them later to use their destroy to play a card ability, but that'll be sort of something clutch I'll do at the end to maybe win a frontier. For now, just the fact that they're sort of sitting back here and providing resources is extremely useful. And so I've played one more card. Again, my opponent has no cards to play at this stage, so it comes back to me and I pass back to my opponent to activate ranged artillery and play another card, but there's none for him to play. Next turn he'll start getting those one costs out and we'll start sweating. So for now, we're just going to move on to objectives. And so my opponent is, well, I'll do mine first because I've been doing mine first. So 4 zeal. I lose 2, so I do 2 zeal to the event. Oh, that's the wrong tokens. I'm green, damn it. Okay, so 2 down onto this event, so we're making some progress. And now the Spanish complete their event because they only need to do 1 more might damage to it, so that's flipped over. And their next event, they're not caught up with me. I'm just slightly ahead, but they've got another might event. It says, Don Garcia reclaims... No. Peñón de Velez. Oh god, don't judge me. My father was a famous Spanish professor. Oh no. So it says here, Don Garcia de Toledo is appointed Captain General of the Sea. He reclaims the fortified Corsair base at Peñón de Velez. Peñón? Okay. So there you go. They've decided they're going to fight back against the Ottoman sea power. And so ends another round. We're going to tick on to round 4. We're now, as you can see, we've ticked up to 0 up to 1 on hard. So that gives them a net of 1. So they're going to start playing those 1 cards, and I'm going to start sweating bullets because the main thing that makes the AI hard in this game is the fact that they have unlimited resources. So every time I do something, they get to like do something, or more likely play a card. And once they start getting those ranged and artillery cards out, I start getting into real trouble. But for now, 3 new cards for me. Ooh. I've got prayer rituals. It says attached to a character, the character gets 1 zeal. So this is an attachment. And that's useful because I'm currently doing a zeal battle. We've got battery guns. This is an artillery. It's pretty strong artillery. It's zeal and its might's relatively low, but it's got 3 hit points, so it's not too bad. And then we've also got the heavy wheeled guns, which is basically the same card but with 2 might instead of zeal. So I think I'll keep the battery guns just because it's got a zeal on it, but I don't know if I'll actually play it out right now. So I'll keep the prayer rituals, the battery guns, and I'll put the heavy wheeled guns into the discard pile for now. And so we get to ready our cards here. I gotta remember to ready the sturdy armor. And we're back at it. So, thinking carefully about my first move here. I gotta get some zeal out to help. I need 2 more zeal on the board essentially if I'm going to How many resources do I have? I've got 3 resources, and I need 2 more zeal. That's a problem. So I'm probably not going to be able to do everything. In fact, I'm probably going to have to... I've got to decide whether to play the battery guns or the Janissaries. The battery guns are super useful, but the Janissaries have 3 might on. And so, right now what I'm thinking, I've got to sort of decide, because the stats in the upper left are more useful for completing my objectives, which is my priority at the moment. But that artillery action, deal 1 damage to this card to deal a damage to every enemy in this card's frontier. That's super useful for slowing down my opponent's advantage, and also for taking out his ranged units. If the Spanish start to play out a lot of ranged units or artillery on their side, that's going to be a problem for me. I don't actually really have any ranged units as the Ottomans. I've only really got a lot of artillery. So, that's something to consider. So, I need 2 cards if I'm going to complete my objective this round. So I'm thinking probably the Janissaries. Because I know that the Spanish has a lot of bold, but I don't know if they have any 1-cost bold cards. So we got here, I like the text on these, by the way, just filling you in about who they are. The Janissaries are a unit I'm intimately familiar with from like historical war games, but I actually never knew anything about. So it says here, the elite forces known as the Yenicheri were never Turkish by birth. They were conscripted at age 7 from Christian families confined within the Ottoman Empire. Enrolled in the strictest soldier training and forbidden to marry, their whole lives were devoted to war. Which I guess explains why they're so angry. They don't fight it. Got here at the dawn on the 22nd of July, 14 batteries of 64 guns opened up against the frontiers of Burgu and Singlia, with a bombardment so continuous and extraordinary that it was astounding and frightening. It's from A.F. Cerny, who I imagine is some kind of scholar. In the early morning, the mullahs chanted prayer rituals to invoke blessings and summoned their brothers in faith to pray for success in battle. So the prayer rituals, I guess that makes sense, because that gives me zeal. So I might as well... I'm so torn between which of these 2 cards to play. Thing is, I'm not going to get to play the even if I discard the Janissaries, they have Relentless, but I'm not going to get to play them out because of the card I discard during pickup is going to be discarded on top of them, and they won't be on the top of the discard pile. You can only use Relentless. They're on top. So I think I'm going to play the Janissaries, and hopefully that won't come back to haunt me. So with that in mind, though, let us... Did I do that in time? Did I just miss it? I was trying to cut away to the thumbnail, honestly. Okay. Let's play out the Janissaries first, I guess. So we're just going to tire all of our resources. I'm going to put them back here because they're great units, and I'm just kind of stacking up my valuable units on this side because it's easiest for me to win the frontiers that are not opposite their leader. So hopefully we'll be able... That's why I put my leader here in St. Elmo, because I can choose to start with my leader here, here, here. But I started at St. Elmo because it's the weakest frontier. So... now it's over to them, and we're going to look for a 1-cost card here from their deck. There's a 4, and a 5, and a 2, and a 3, and a 2. And there we go. So, oh great, it's ranged. God damn it. Oh wait, no, I shouldn't have. I should have waited. I should have played the ritual prayers and then chosen the card I was going to play. So, so they've got range 3, which means they can fire up to 3 rows. So if they're here, they can go 1, 2, 3. And they'll deal 1 damage to an enemy up to 3 rows away in the frontier. They only have 1 hit point, and they're kind of a bit bad, but there you go. So it's actually interesting because the AI prioritizes the rows right to left. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think, or maybe it's 1, 2. Hang on. I just realized I might be wrong about that. No, I was right. So they prioritized the spot in front of St. Elmo first. So 1, 2, 3. But so their next placement actually goes here, but with ranged units, they always put them opposite my leader, which also happens to be here. So they'll put them there. So in this case, it's the same space, but it's important to note there's an exception there. And that's their jam. So I guess now I'm gonna. Should I maybe just hang on to the battery guns? Wait a minute. What's my zeal at? 3, 4, 5. Minus 2 is 3. Yeah, so that's why. So I need 1 more zeal. So I need to discard this so I can play this zeal onto... Probably going to play it onto this Janissary because in the back row, the Janissary is safest, and I don't really need another zeal up here. So like I said, I'm pressuring the 2 outside fronts because they're the easiest for me to capture because the enemy leader is here. So really what I'm trying to do in this middle front as we get towards the actual conflict is to just not lose it horribly. But now that I've done that, they're going to look for another 1-cost card to play. Oh, straight off the top, we've got Raphael Salvago, Knight of St. John, Order of Malta. So he's got 1 zeal, 2 wounds, that's it. And it says tire this card to... Well, that's a response ability, so the computer won't use it. An experienced knight who ran the Ottoman harbor blockade and was dropped by galley from Sicily alongside Captain Miranda with word from Don Garcia. So, there we go. He goes in there because that's the next available spot. And I pass. And so now... Wait, did I pass already? I played that. No, I played 2 cards. They played 2 cards. So I pass. They get 1 more card. And it's... Oh, well, I guess it's a good thing I didn't play the battery out. It's a event card that says Stolen Siege Tower, destroy 1 enemy artillery. They're not going to play this card because they can't. Because I don't have any artillery. It says the Ottomans' first siege tower was demolished by a concealed cannon at its base. Their second, reinforced cannon-proof siege tower was overrun in a daring raid, during which the knights added it to their defenses. Oh dear. So, I think I actually have to draw another card now. I think I keep going until I get one they can play. Just bear with me. Check. Yeah, we just discard it and keep going. So. Ah, here we go. Oh no, this is very bad. So we've drawn an event card again, and it's Romega's Booty. So the top action cannot be performed. Draw 3 cards. So if this were a 2-player game, if one of the players played this card, they would choose one of these 2 actions to carry out. But the AI just tries to carry out one or the other. It can't do the top one because it doesn't have a hand, so it does the bottom one, which means it will now play a cost. It will look for a card to play at cost -3. So my only hope is the next card it draws is a 1 or a 2, so it doesn't get the full advantage of the discount. The fruits of Romegas' savage raids on Ottoman cargo ships were multitudinous. Weapons and supplies requisitioned from such ventures were put to great use during the siege. Alright. So, fingers crossed, we draw a 1 cost. Oh, it's a 3 cost. Great. Oh. This is kind of a bummer. Alright, so, what we've got here is St. Elmo's Pay. So, this is an event card, which the computer can play because they've got the discount on it. And it says, the Ottoman beach attack at Sanglia was disastrous. Cut off from their boats and routed, the Turks were chased into the sea and butchered by the defenders who chanted, St. Elmo's Pay, meaning no mercy. So actually this is not too bad, because I've just realized I can kill off my levied men unit. So, when it comes to a choice like destroy 1 enemy unit, the computer can't decide. I do think it will start actually No, it will. It's got an order of priority. So we'll start destroying cards with the function bold. Bold is a keyword which allows units to capture our enemy artillery. Uh, I've only seen Spanish cards with bold. I actually don't think that the Ottomans have any bold cards. I'm not sure. But anyway, they'll target bold first, then they'll target artillery, and then finally ranged. Because I don't have any bold or artillery or ranged units, I can choose any of the units to die. So I'll choose the levied men. Although it does actually also say unit. So I couldn't pick a character or my leader, and obviously I wouldn't pick that. Really stupid. Alright, so I think we got off lightly there just because we had a sort of a grunt lying around. Let's see if we can find some more of them. And actually, now that it's my turn, I could elect to replay the levied men because they are on top of my discard pile. And they have relentless. But I don't think I will, and I'll tell you why, because I don't need them for anything right now. And if I play them, I'm essentially playing a zero-cost card, and then I'm just giving the computer an opportunity to play a one-cost card. Here's another point as well. At some time, I think immediately after playing the Musketeers, on the computer's next turn, it should have activated them. It actually prioritizes activating ranged units over playing more cards. I forgot to do that, but that's okay because I don't think it would have made a difference. These are all, they're only going to result in putting a wound on my leader. So in this case, I'm going to pass. The AI triggers all of their ranged units. This is true until we get to the Great Siege of Malta, and he's going to put a wound onto my leader, which it's okay for now. I've got 9 hit points, but I don't want to let that build up too much because if the leader dies, I lose the game. Okay. Yeah, title drop. St. Elmo's Pay. It's the name of the game. Okie dokie. And so now that we've resolved that situation, the computer's also going to draw. They've got their end of the round abilities to trigger, but they don't actually have any right now. So they are going to trigger this. I'm going to just flip over my little handy dandy player guide that I made. And yes, end of round. They don't have any of the. If they had a relentless card in here, they could play it for free, but they don't, fortunately. So we got a 2-cost card here, so they can't afford that, can they? No, they can't afford that yet. Right, let me just find this 1-cost. Ah, here we go. Oh, I don't like this at all. So they've gained a attachment called Steel Bassinets, which they attach to a unit for +1 might. The knight's plate armor was topped by peaked steel helmets, similar to those of the conquistadors. One knight, Lorenzo Pucci, was shot in the face and knocked from his feet before standing back up to resume his duties. Essentially, the steel bassinets are pretty good. Alright, so this is attached to a unit, so because there's no... this is literally just something for me to pick. I just choose this. So I'm trying to think. At the moment, it doesn't really matter. It could matter later on. I think I'm going to put them over here. No, I think I'm going to put it over here. No, I'm going to put it over here. Because what I'm thinking is I want to get an artillery out here so I can maybe kill both of these things. Because the artillery will hit everything in the row. Or in that frontier. Yeah, Missio, those knights are pretty awesome. You can also use these little might tokens if you think you're going to forget about this, to remind you that these things have +1 might. But the way I do it is I just lay the card out there so I can see the extra banner. It can get a bit tricky when you have to put attachments on the frontiers, though. So these little tokens, which are they have +1, -1 on them. Oops. They're pretty useful. Alright, cool. So that's resolved the end of the round, and now we're on to the objectives, where I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 6 might. Yep, so that's -6 zeal. -2 zeal is 4, which is just enough to complete the objective that needs 6 in total on it. So that's good. So I've completed the objective. I can draw a card, which I'll do now. God, do I have no cards in hand? Oh, that's frightening. Okay. Oh! Crap! I completely forgot to use this guy's ability when I played him. Oh, it's way too late to go back now. But he's got this scholarly ability that says draw 3 cards, choose one to keep, one to discard, and one to place on the bottom of your deck. I completely forgot to do that when I played him. I even called it out. I said, this will be great. And then I got so sidetracked with what I was doing here that I completely forgot to use the ability. So, in any case, I got an objective there for completing, or a card there for completing the objective. And the new objective is meeting the Divan. Suleiman makes plans to attack Malta, a strike at the heart. The Ottoman war machine swings into action in the most ambitious maritime adventure since the Crusades. So this is 3 might, so you can see they're stepping up the difficulty a bit now. And the card I've drawn is St. Elmo Bombardment. This says deal 1 damage to every enemy in 1 frontier. Perfect. This is going to do exactly what I needed to do. Wipe out those enemies. In the astonishing summer heat hung the smell of stone, dust, and gunpowder, the buzz of flies, the stench of the dead. Roger Crowley, Empires of the Sea. He's another historian. And the Spanish are doing a might. This is the Don Garcia event. So they've got might 1, 2, oh, sorry, might, yeah. Might 2, 3, 4, 7. -2 is 5. So they're just shy of completing it once again. Which is good for me because I want to stay ahead on this if possible. The last thing we're going to do is tick up the game round. So we're now on round 5, and they're still on 1 resource, which is great. Okay, so back over here, I'm going to draw 3 cards, and we've got Pitiless Butchery. Until the end of this round, your opponent's zeal total is 0, and this can also be played as a nope card to cancel St. Elmo's Pay. Well, St. Elmo's Pay is already gone, and that's fine. That could slow my opponent down when they're on a zeal objective. We've got the Turgut's Corsairs, Turgut's the Pirate King. The old Corsair Turgut was summoned from Tripoli to assist the 2 Pashas with his lengthy military experience. After St. Elmo, he drank the sherbet of martyrdom and forgot this vain world. Huh. He drank the sherbet of martyrdom. Huh. Well, this unit has a resource on it, so I really want to play it. And then we've also got take St. Elmo's Ravelin. Destroy 1 enemy tactics. So that could be useful at some point. I'm not too bothered about that tactic card, although maybe I should be more bothered about it. Actually, do you know what? It's going to save this. So, these guys, and I want them to die. So, let's go ahead and take these 3, and we'll just skip over... Well, we can't get rid of that. Let's go ahead and take these 2, and we'll skip over Pitiless Butchery, I think. Because I've actually got the resources, I'm going to ready my resources now, to play these 2 cards here without having to give up a card. And then we'll hang on to this one, and hopefully we can play it next turn. Oh, we're going to ready that as well. So, everything's readied up, and I think. So the very first thing that's going to happen is they're going to tire that unit to shoot my leader again, but I'm kind of okay with that. So I think, I think the first thing I have to do is tire a unit to play take St. Elmo's Ravelin, destroy the enemy tactics card. So that's a 1-cost event. And it takes out Stout Armor. Yet we can't let them have the Stout Armor and the peaked steel bassinets. It's too much. The armor of the knights prevented many otherwise lethal injuries. The actual weight of the metal is so well distributed that a comparatively heavy suit can be worn without too much discomfort. Wow. Yeah, it's actually really interesting how they made this armor. I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but I've seen some YouTube videos about it, and they talk about sort of mobility and how they sort of designed all these different things to make sure you can learn and do stuff. It's pretty cool. So, taking out the tactic, and now it's the enemy's response, and what they're going to do is they're going to tire their ranged unit to shoot my leader. Back to me. So they do that instead of playing a card. So back to me, and I'm going to play my final two resources here to play the St. Elmo's Bombardment to deal 1 damage to each unit in this row here, which takes out both of these things. And when a unit with an attachment is killed, the attachment is also lost. So we sort of made a stupid decision on behalf of the AI there to keep ourselves in this game. But we'll see how long this lasts. So back to them. They don't have any abilities to activate, so they're just going to go ahead and look for a card, a 1 cost. And hopefully it's nothing too... it's more musketeers. Great. So they're going to take these musketeers, the exact same as the ones we just killed. We didn't actually read the flavor text in this game. As the soldiers on both sides became entrenched, they sought makeshift cover and barriers from which they could hunt and shoot their enemies. And they're going to put these musketeers right there. God damn it. Son of a gun. Get out of here. Just blew you up. I literally just blew you up. So, now I'm going to pass, because I'm all out of resources, and the foe is going to do this. He's going to tap that to shoot me. God damn it, son of a bitch. It's so annoying. Okay, cool. And then he's going to look for 1 more card to play. Barren Terrain. Deal 1 damage to a frontier. Okay. So... Huh. Now, if I remember correctly, in solo mode, the opponent will seek to deal a damage to the frontier that contains their leader. But I will check. For events. Nope, it doesn't specify. Nope. No, attachments are always played to the leader's frontier if possible. So, I will decide. I will put it on St. Elmo, I think. Because I'm feeling... Well, to be fair, I've got literally nothing on this frontier and my leader's being killed. But that's fine. But let's move on to objectives. So I've got 3 might, 4 might. No, I've got 9 might. That's amazing, actually. 9 might. So I actually just complete this objective right away. These Janissaries are great, and I didn't use them enough in the other 2 solo games I played, so it was a lot slower, actually. Yeah, I've got 9 might out here. So that means that I can complete this objective right away. So, done that. And we've got a new one. I get to draw a card, which is great. It says here, Leader, Departure Ceremony. Leader of the invasion force, Mustafa Pasha. Hang on. Hang on. Just a minute. Leader of the invasion force, Mustafa Pasha, receives his standard and general's sword. He then sets off aboard his flagship to Malta, accompanied by his fleet. But is it spelt with PH? Or with an F? Or are they different people? Is there 2 Mustafa Pashas? In any case, I got a card. And the card is Galleys. Oh, I like this card. It's got a resource on it. It's 4 cost, though. And it says, Action. Range 5. Deal 1 damage to one enemy up to 5 rows away in this card's frontier. Okay, so I think I want to put this down with my leader to blow away those riflemen who are shooting him. That seems like a pretty good choice. And the Spanish will complete their objective as well because it only needs 1 more might. They've clearly got that. And so they will now move on to Romegas captures the Sultana, which I assume is an area of where we're fighting and not a raisin. Mathurin Romegas continuing sea raid. Mathurin Romegas' continuing sea raids led to the capture of the governor of Cairo and the nurse of Suleiman's daughter, Murima. Alright. Jerk. Get out of here. Leave us alone. We just want to be left in peace. And finally, we tick this up, and uh-oh. We're now on 2 resources for the Spanish, so that's a thing. What is this music? This is like funereal. And like, it knows. It knows I'm done for. Okay, I got 3 cards here. I've got an event. 1 cost, sink the Sultana, destroy 1 attachment. Oh, the Sultana's a boat! So they captured one of my boats, which I named after a raisin. The captured Sultana, anchored in the harbor all through the siege, represented a defilement for the Ottomans. Mustafa, now spelled with an F, ordered it. Mustafa with an F ordered it to be destroyed and sunk. Mustafa with a PH disagreed, but eventually they went with Mustafa with an F's orders. Alright, cool. We got Ottoman gunners. A 0 cost unit. When played, deal 1 damage to 1 non-enemy leader. This can all... Actually, that's great too. So, we've got that. And we've got... Remove all damage from 1 unit or character. Pomegranates and cucumber. In a kind of bizarre precursor to the World War I Christmas truce of 1914, where both sides ceased fire to play football, the entrenched Ottomans and Maltese took a brief respite from killing each other to exchange gifts of food. God, people are weird, aren't they? I love it. I love how that's a thing that happened. It's just amazing to me how that sort of happened. Intent on recovering their dead comrades from the battlefield, a practice which Lavalette forbade his men from attempting, Ottoman soldiers sometimes made themselves sitting targets. Okie dokie. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have to get rid of one of these cards, which is a real bummer because I really like them all. I am concerned about the amount of damage on my leader. I'm not super concerned, but I'm a little bit concerned. Also, this is not mine, is it? This is his. That could have been an awkward mistake. Though I would have to play them into here, and then all of these things are basically useless to him. So maybe I don't play them. The thing is, I should really use these because they're not contributing to the battle. They don't have... Oh, they don't have any zeal. So, the battle is a 3 zeal. I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, which is actually really good. He's got 5. Wish I could have got rid of these guys, but I never did figure out a way to do that. I'm half tempted to sacrifice this card. Well, I can't now, it's tapped actually. But I could tap one of these. I have them on back, so that's probably okay. I'm half tempted to delete this card to play out the galleys because they're so good. And they've got range 5, so they can basically cover the distance of everything. I could pick off this guy. I could start to put damage on their leader. Super tempting. Yeah, I actually think because I think that this destroy one attachment card could be so clutch. So let's tire the mercenaries instead of tiring this tactic. I know I was just talking about how good this tactic is, but the galleys have the ranged ability and they've got a resource on them. So let's play out the galleys. This might be a bad choice. I don't usually do this, but let's see what happens. We'll drop the galleys back here. So we've played a card, so it's over to the Spanish. To play... Oh! So this is where civilities break down. Remember earlier how we were releasing soldiers and then shared pomegranates and cucumber? Well, now we're firing human heads at one another. In response to the crucifixions of the knights at St. Elmo, all the Turkish prisoners of war were slaughtered, and St. Angelo's guns fired their heads into the Ottoman camp. That's grim. So this deals 1 damage to one of my units. So I've got to decide where to put this. And I think the best place to put the damage is probably onto Sol Aga here. I'm kind of okay with that because he's got 2 and he's not that good. He's got a resource on him, which is important, but I really don't want to lose these Janissaries because I'm going to take Boku. So that is resolved. The portion it's pretty dark, Eggers, yeah. It's I mean the card art is I think very much a compromise. Sort of it's not bloody or anything like that. I imagine this would have been even much more horrific than this card indicates in real life. But that's history for you. Dark. Right, so that was their response. So it's back to me. I think I'm going to pass because I've got 2 resources, but I want to keep this card, so I can't play this card. So I'll pass. So it's back over to the Spanish to play. Oh no! I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to activate the ranged effect on this cannon, destroy this card here. I think kind of tempted to actually put a damage on this guy. Because he's got 1 zeal, and I think there's another zeal event coming up in here. Like I said, the Spanish are bad at zeal, so if I can take out as much of their zeal as possible before they get to that big zeal event, I'm really going to slow down their advance on the objectives, which is good. So yeah, I'll tell you what, let's pop a damage onto this guy. Although if we kill this guy, we're slowing them down now. They're going to play another card in there, which probably has marking on it. Ah, damned if you do, damned if you don't. He's kind of shitty, though. And he's shitty in a way that... I mean, I actually quite like both of these cards in this middle column, because their might is so low, so maybe that was a bad idea. Let's put a damage on him, and then I'll decide what I'm going to take, if I'm going to finish him off later round or not. So 1 more card for the Spanish. Spanish soldiers. Oh, this is... I hate these guys. Okay. So... 0 zeal, 2 might, 2 wounds. Tireless, your opponent discards a card from their deck. Spanish soldiers. Valette hired a small contingent of Spanish troops to be released by the King of Spain. The logistics of shipping them across to Malta were such that few, about 400, actually arrived in time. So, put them down here. And back to me. And now I definitely pass. So we're over to the Spanish, who are going to do their ranged stuff. They don't have any artillery, they don't have any, but they do have an end of round event, which is tireless. So they're actually going to tire this unit to discard the top card of my deck, which is converted Christians, a unit with bloodlust. Many of the cavalrymen and riflemen of the Ottoman ranks were Greek, Spanish, and Italian renegade slaves taken into battle and now set free to fight their brethren. Makes sense. This card could actually basically kill itself to deal 1 damage to the enemies, which is pretty thematic and grim. Alright, and now they're going to play 1 more card out. And we're still on 2 resources. So we're going to play the Maltese Militiamen. They're a 1-cost unit, 1 might, 2 wounds. They've got agile. 3,000 Maltese militiamen in crude helmets and padded cotton tunics who were utterly loyal to the cause, fought valiantly to defend their home. And they will play into here, the next available spot. Alright, on to the objectives. So I've got Zeal, I've got 3, 4, 5, 6 Zeal, which puts out 3 onto my objective, which I think is pretty good actually, because these Zeal objectives with the high Zeal counts are really tricky to do. And the Spanish are on a might 1. They've got 1, 2, 5 might. So, oh no, they've got this guy now. That's 6 might. So they just wait. Hang on. Maths. God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Minus 3, 3 as well. Okay. Man, these Janissaries have really allowed me to get a good lead on the Spanish objectives. This is very lucky. So we're going to tick them over to the next event, and now they're on 3 resources. So my ever-encroaching doom grows near. Round 7. All right, 3 cards for me. And what have we got here? We've got Torched Fields. Your opponent reveals their hand, then you may choose and discard up to 2 of their cards. In solo, destroy an enemy tactics. Well, that's pretty useful. Faced with poisoned waterholes and almost no local resources to utilize, Mustafa with an F set about torching the landscape and engulfing the plains in smoke and fire. Got Ottoman Grenadiers. The Turks hurled sacheti, or fire grenades, ahead of themselves as they advanced, which were similar in nature to the Greek firepots used by the knights. They're only 1 Zeal this unit, so they're pretty poor, but they've got this action called Pulverize. They deal a damage, which is essentially you can tire them to deal a damage to the frontier, which is kind of awesome. So at some point I'd quite like to play them out somewhere where I can just tire them and start putting damage on frontiers, even ahead of the Great Siege of Malta. So that gives me a bit of a head start, which is always good. My final card here is the Ottoman Sappers. They've also got Pulverize, so again, using that to my advantage is very good. Under the blazing suns and bright moons, the Ottoman Sappers toiled constantly, tirelessly, tunneling closer to the enemy walls, whilst also building embankments and bastions to protect themselves. So those are our little wall diggers there. So we've got to get rid of one of these. I'm probably going to get rid of the Torched Fields, because I feel like getting both of these guys out early, potentially playing them down here, I could actually rack up a bunch of wounds on St. Elmo, where my opponent has got a head start, which would be good, because then that would free up my leader to maybe move to another front, provide an advantage there. Fingers crossed, but you know, I know things are going to start getting really tough Spanish there very, very quickly. So now that we've done that, we can ready up our cards, and it's time for the next round. And the very first thing I'm going to do, I think, is play out my final resource card here, Turgut's Corsairs. So let's do that. It's going to cost me all 3 of my resources, so I won't unfortunately be able to use the galleys to finish this guy off at this time, but I'll be getting one more resource out. He's also got Cunning, and when he's played, he can tire a non-leader enemy in his frontier. So we might as well tire this unit here so they don't use their tireless action, force me to discard a card later. So that's good. And in response, Spanish, Uze Jamisi says, "Hi, the Janissaries are my ancestors. I am Turkish." Cool. Well, they're doing a very good job for me in this game. Oh no! Remember that story we read about the Ottomans going out to rescue their wounded friends? Ottoman friendly fire! Amidst the confusion and deafening roar of battle, there were incidents of friendly fire on both sides, cannonballs landing in friendly camps, and arquebuses bus. Shots hitting the backs of their comrades. So the Spanish have played this card, which forces me to destroy one enemy infantry. So, man, I really don't want to give up any of my infantry. Oh, I'll give up this 0 cost grunt. Thank God I played more of these guys. They are infantry. So I'm going to give up... These are actually literally the guys that did get shot going to rescue their friends. So I'm afraid that they're literally the same art on both cards. Oh, that makes sense. Flap. So the galley moves forward. Now you will have noticed on my side, whenever I'm removing a unit, I didn't explain this, but whenever I'm removing a unit, the ones at the back are sliding forward. That's what happens in the game, unless you're the AI. If you're the AI, they just stay wherever they've been placed. So if this one died, the leader wouldn't come forward. If this one died, nobody moves forward. It's just the way it is for the AI. But for players, they slide forward, so you can kind of like snipe off units and things with archers and move this tableau around. That's a thing. Anyway, he played his card. Back to me. I don't think I have anything left to play because I've only got one resource. I can't play this card. I could give up one of these cards actually to play one out. But I'm kind of tempted because this guy's got zeal. Well, I'm going to win the zeal actually this round without his zeal anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I could potentially spend 2 rounds. Like I could play this card and then action it to put a damage on St. Elmo. Don't know if that's necessarily worth it because I can basically pass now. Spanish plays 1 more card, or I can go through all these actions to play out the sappers. Spanish plays 3 more cards, and the Spanish is playing at resource cost 3 now. I'm gonna basically be playing a resource cost 2 card and then putting a damage onto St. Elmo. That is, of course, how you win the game, so it is important. Hard decision. Let's do it. We'll tire this guy here and give up the Fire Grenadier to play the Sappers into the final position on this frontier here. So we've got... Aha! Oh no! Shit! I really should have hung on to that card I gave up where I was like, I don't think it... Ugh. So we've got here a Religious Fervor. This is a Spanish tactic, and the main problem with it is it's got a resource on it. So now instead of being on resource count 3, he's on resource count 4. In solo, it gives his leader +1 zeal. That's really bad. I haven't seen that card before, even though I've played this twice. So this goes to show. Oh no. Oh no. I hate that. That's really bad. Oh. Well. Okay. Actually, you know, I'm going to put it over here with the Rondel, or else I'm going to forget about it. And now I'm going to tire these guys to put a wound here onto St. Elmo. At least I've got that. And we've got a character whom I dislike. Francesco Lanfreducci. Response fated. If destroyed, discard 1 card. Well, the AI doesn't play that. So he's just a 3 might, 0 zeal soldier man. He goes out here. Alright, now it's back to me and I'm going to pass. Yeah, I was like, I don't think he's got any more tactics. So I was like, I can give up torched fields. And now I'm like, I wish I hadn't done that. Story of my life. I feel like I have a lot more cards this game. I don't know what happened. Maybe I'm just getting ahead of myself, though. So, 1 more card for my enemy here. Well, first, artillery and ranged. He doesn't seem to have any. So I guess I'm getting quite lucky in that regard. Then it's his end of round abilities. The only one is this one, and he's already tired. So that's fine. Actually, I need to keep that like that, because it doesn't get tired on the Spanish side, so it doesn't really matter. The other tactic could, because it was a one-off ability, but this one just doesn't get tired. So, yeah, so just play a card, and then move on to the objectives. Oh god. Captain Mendrano. Move one order of Malta unit, or oh, that's fine. He's got that little action, but he's got 1 zeal and 2 might. It says here, at the forefront of the battle at St. Elmo, from day 1, Mendrano was sent across secretly by boat to strategize with the Grand Master. Leader of many sorties and gallant to the last, Mendrano died defending the fort. Well, let's hope that history rings true, Mendrano, because there you go, you're in St. Elmo now. Although you were a bit late. It said here you were from day 1. Got to read about this guy. Lanfreducci lit the fire signaling the end of St. Elmo, making the eyewitnesses' hair stand on end at Burgoo. Oh, and he's at Burgoo. That's awesome. He was taken by Turgot's corsairs and reappeared seemingly from the dead years later. Oh. Actually, if he was fire signaling, he lit the fire signal in the end, so we don't actually know where the fire was lit. But anyway, don't light it yet, because I haven't taken St. Elmo. So now we're going to do objectives. I've got enough zeal to complete this objective, so that's good. 3 on my leader, plus 3 more over here. That's done it. So bye-bye departure ceremony, and now we're on the landing at Malta, which reads... So that's the actual art we saw on St. Elmo's, and it reads, the spectacle of the Ottomans landing took the breath away. 130 galleys, 30 galliots, 9 transport barges, 10 large galleons, 200 smaller transport vessels, 30,000 men. This is also Roger Crowley, Empires of the Sea. I feel like if you want to learn more about this, he probably is your guy, because that's 2 quotes I've had from him now. I think this is the last objective I have to do before the Siege of Malta as well. Now the Spanish are still on might. I think they've got more than enough might here to complete their might objective. I'm also bummed out that the leader got a bonus zeal, because now they're going to get through that zeal objective, and that's going to bring them closer. I'm going to have less time to build up my advantage here. So we've got Romegas strikes again. This is their next one. It's another might event. Romegas continues raiding Ottoman ships, and this time captures the governor of Alexandria. Suleiman is furious. Yeah, stop it, Romegas. Stop it. And we advance the dial. Lablam. And they're still on 3 resources, but they've got 4, of course, thanks to the religious fervor. Alright, so... Ooh, clutch. Alright, we got... False alarms and skirmishes. This is an event card that says destroy 1 enemy unit with zeal 0, which is useful because the Spanish don't have good zeal typically. We've got a 2-cost event, long-barreled arquebuses. Destroy 1 non-enemy leader with zeal 1 or lower. 1 non-leader enemy. Yeah. Oh, we should read the thingy. Strange and new to Europeans, the long-barreled Ottoman arquebus was slower to load, but more powerful and accurate, and could cut through medium plate armor with ease. Aha! And we've got over here. Mustafa played mind games with the defenders, sending his ships away, then recalling them to make it seem like he was receiving constant reinforcements. Endless trenching and surprise attacks whittled away the enemy's morale. And the final card we've got is... Practical Engineering. Play an artillery card for free. Deal 1 damage to every card on both sides in 1 frontier. Ooh. Ooh. So I'd have to choose one of those. But first I have to choose one of these cards to keep. So I quite like the idea of these 2 because they let me take out the enemy units. But I have to have a think about it because... I mean, I'm tempted to keep this one because it's a 1 cost and I could kill this guy who's a might 3, which is good. The thing about this is that I'm paying 2 to kill an enemy with zeal 1 or lower, yes, but I'm giving the computer an opportunity to play a card that's, or the AI, sorry, I keep saying computer, it's a force of habit. But I'm giving the AI a chance to play a 4-cost card, so I'm not really doing myself any favors, really. I'm just sort of wasting my time. The reason I think this one's worth it is just because it's cheaper, and this guy's got 3 might. So he's kind of a good character. But this one, I think, is slightly more expensive, and it just kind of swings out of favor. I think also both of these would be a bit of a waste. So, I mean, in the solo mode, you're thinking about how the enemy has infinite resources. And so really it's about balancing your own resources. And that's why I'll keep Practical Engineering, because it lets me play a card that could cost up to 4 resources for free. If I get it. But if I don't get it, it still counts as a resource, and that's good. So now we're going to ready up all of the stuff here. And I'm on a might battle, so I'm just having a think here. 9 might does it, and thanks to these Janissaries, the Janissaries are great, and I really wish I'd played them into my other games, because I always thought they were a bit... I think I got them quite early on, and they were just a bit too expensive. But the Janissaries and my leader will take care of this event on their own, so long as I don't tire them, it'll be fine. So they're on might over on this side. I don't think I can really do anything about that because there's so much might on the Spanish side currently. But I think I think probably I'm just gonna play this card here to kill this man, and that's all I'm gonna do this round. I might play my boat to kill this guy off as well, just because I'm pretty sure their next objective is Zeal. I mean, I'm not really slowing them down that much because of this bonus they've got on the leader now, and oh, this guy's got a Zeal on him as well. Damn it. I'd like to use the Sappers as well to put another wound on St. Elmo. Every action I take just gives them more good cards out in front of them. They're going to come a point where they're going to be replacing these as well. Well, it's going to happen very soon. On my side, one of the rules for the players is that you can't just replace a card. If you want to open up a slot, you have to sacrifice the card, which kills it. Everything else moves down, and then you open up a slot to play something into. So sacrificing a card is much more of a price for the players, whereas the AI is allowed to just replace cards because it's bullshit. So, I mean, that's how you balance out these things. I mean, the AI doesn't have a brain, so it needs these kinds of advantages. Alright. And it's already at a big disadvantage. It's got no brain. What am I going to do? I don't really want to open up this spot here because the AI could just put a 4-cost card in here now. But it might not have Zeal on it, which would be somewhat good. I need a good card back here. Hoping I'll get something with Practical Engineering, maybe. Of course, I could just play Practical Engineering for the damage, but then I'd deal 1 damage to everything on this frontier, which would kill off Soliaga. And I think it's not yet right time for that. Alright. Let's start with this. Let's start with this. Deal the damage to St. Elmo. Get that head start. Further. Oh, crap. I didn't even notice this. Oh, never mind. That plan's gone. It says, deal a damage to this card and a card to the frontier. So they actually died previously, so they're dead, and I can't use that. So, I guess that just means, I guess we're going to assassinate that other guy. Yep, we're just going to assassinate 2 units and then be done with it, I guess. So kill off this man. And the Spanish get a chance to play a card. So we killed him with the galley. Ranged attack. Still no ranged or artillery here, so they're playing... Oh, gosh. Well, this is why we kept Sync the Sultana. The Standard of St. John, Order of Malta. Attached to Jean Paris de Valette. Gains 1 Zeal. Unfurling the red and white standard of St. John in response to the Ottoman army's approach to Burgoo, La Valette could see his troops were bristling for a fight. He had to restrain them from emptying the fort in an all-out attack. So that's going to attach to him, and he's going to get 1 more Zeal, but I'm going to destroy him. I'm going to tire Salaga, play Sink the Sultana to remove an attachment. So that's gone. I know it's only a 1-cost attachment, but I want to keep that zeal down. It's kind of the whole point of this. Oh no. So what we've got here is Fire Hoops, an event card that I hate. Deal 1 damage to every enemy in one frontier. Testing a deadly efficient new military device developed by opportunistic knight Roman Fortune. Lavalescent Fire Hoops over to St. Elmo. Barrel hoops repeatedly covered in caulking total boiling tar. And that's kind of a crazy weapon, right? Barrel hoops, so they were the metal rings for barrels. God. Alright, so he's going to deal 1 damage to everyone in a single frontier. If I do it here, I'm going to lose my mercenaries. If I do it here, I'm going to lose Sol Aga. But I can do it here. I know it's probably not a good idea to put a wound on my leader, but I did it anyway. Okie dokie. Back to me. So my last one, I'm going to tire the mercenaries here to play false alarms and skirmishes to take out this guy here. And we're going to get one more card from the Spanish. Aha! This is much more like it. Melchior de Montserrat, Knight Commander. When Janissaries swarmed and reoccupied the Cavalier at St. Elmo, de Montserrat brought a gun to bear against them and blew the sharpshooters away, preventing a breach into the fort. He was killed by a cannon blast minutes later. Great. Well, he sounds like he's going here. So that's better for me. Right, and now I pass. So, and, oh no. Oh god. It's artillery. Oh god, it's the worst. Deal 1 damage to this card and every enemy in this card's frontier. Oh, it's going to kill my Janissaries. Oh no. I need to take this out. How do I take this out? I can't take this out. Oh, this might just have ruined the game for me. Swivel gun teams. Although massively outnumbered by the Turkish cannons, the defending gun batteries at St. Elmo and St. Angelo comprised a formidable and critical resistance force. And of course it's going down here because it can't go anywhere else. And that's extremely bad. It's 4 hit points as well. It's probably just going to fire twice and wipe out this entire front, and then I'm going to lose the game. But I passed already. That was their last card. Oh, and they also tire that man to ditch one of my cards, which is scaffolding bridges. Exchange the position of any 2 of your army cards. Using masts from the galleys, the Ottomans constructed portable bridges to cross ditches and scale walls, to which the defenders furiously attacked at no cost. It's kind of cool. We actually used parts of our boats to make the siege ladders and things like that. Alright, so now we're going to do objectives. So I'm going to complete this objective. Now I'm on to the Great Siege of Malta. I've landed at Malta. So it's because I got 9 might, actually 10 might out on the board, so I can just get that right off the bat. I get to draw a card, which is Heavy Wheeled Guns, Ottoman Artillery. It's a 3-cost card. Transporting the cannons into positions from the boats over 7 miles of barren rock required huge numbers of men, with up to 12 bellowing oxen pulling each piece. And I'm going to check Spanish objective, which is might. They've clearly done it. They've got a ton of ready might. That's flipped over, and they've got their one last objective here before they also arrive at the siege, which is Lavalette summons the knights. As word spreads of the gathering Ottoman armada heading to Malta, Valette summons the Knights of St. John from all over Europe. So this is a 3 zeal objective. So currently, they've actually got 5 zeal on the board, but no, 6 zeal on the board, so they can do it in 2 rounds, which is kind of a bummer, because I was hoping I could, if I could take out this guy, maybe then I could get my leverage my advantage a bit quicker here, but sadly I don't think that's the case. So we're gonna go on to round 9. Man, I've arrived at the Great Siege so early. These Janissaries have really helped to accelerate things. But actually, before I played, no, this was the card they drew, wasn't it? Yeah, I was gonna say I should have activated him, but he doesn't activate if he's the final card they draw before objectives. It's only if I think. No, it says when the foe's card is played, the action taken on the card is the listed on the card is taken immediately. So yeah, I should probably have done this. That's fine. 1 damage to everybody. Great. Fortunately, the mercenaries are dead. Fortunately, the Janissaries survived, and that's what's important because I need them to breach to complete that last objective, but now they're going to die, and that's a real bummer. So, I've gone on to round 9, and yeah, time to draw up cards. Oh, this is a disaster, though. Losing those guys to that gun is an absolute disaster. I need them. I mean, they are relentless, so I can probably bring 1 back, but so I've got Payale's patrol ships here, which is a really good card. It's got 4 might on it, which is excellent. As the siege wore on, Payale's galleys moved to intercept the boats crossing the harbor to resupply St. Elmo, cutting it off from all but the most determined Maltese swimmer messengers. So that's a really powerful naval card. We've got crack snipers. The Ottomans hammered the Maltese outposts from all sides, bedding and setting up snipers wherever they could. They made it so perilous for the defenders at St. Elmo, they had to crawl on all 4s to move around. And more levied men who are just kind of grunts. They're also relentless. Okay. So I've got to get rid of one of these cards. I'm kind of tempted to get rid of the crack snipers just because I feel like they're too expensive for me to play all of these cards, unfortunately. It is regrettable, but I think it's the truth. So I think I definitely want to keep the patrol ships. And the levied men can actually be played from the discard, although at this stage with 1 might are kind of useless. But it's always useful just in case my opponent plays one of those cards. It's like twice now I've found it useful to have a grunt round. I mean, the snipers can deal a damage, but I don't think I'm going to be able to deal enough damage to this artillery to make a difference. It's going to wipe out the Janissaries now. And I can bring 1 Janissary back. So actually the crack snipers could do it. We'll keep the crack snipers. Although I don't think I'm gonna have enough resources or cards to do anything with it. NY Raider fan says, so does the gameplay match the great artwork on the cards? Well, after the gameplay, we're going to be getting to the review in which we will discuss this matter. Indeed we shall. Detail, I think. So now that I've chosen my resources, I ready up these cards. Bing bong. And this one as well. So what do we do here? Next turn, I want to play out one of the Janissaries again. I'll probably put it down here so that it can just help me get St. Elmo's really quickly, and then we can maybe move over to here. But I am... If I can play heavy-wheeled guns for cost of 1. And then I can play the yeah. So I'm going to lose both of the Janissaries. Oh, but if I... So I can play the cracked snipers and take this thing out, then I won't be able to play the Janissaries. But if I time it right, I might be able to kill this before... If I time it right, I might be able to kill this first thing next round. So let's bank on that happening. Unfortunately, I kind of need to play the heavy-wheeled guns in here, so they're going to take a hit from that. I don't think there's anything I can do to prevent that. So, I mean, yeah, I could play the heavy-wheeled guns later, but if I'm only playing one card this round, I'm going to have to play this first. Because there's nothing else I can do to buy time, because I need the resource on this. So, yeah, so I'm going to tire this guy, I guess, to play the practical engineering, to play an artillery for 3, and I'm going to put the heavy-wheeled guns down here. Then it's the Spanish turn, and they're going to tire this one. They'll take 1 damage on it to deal 3 damage across here, so we'll put 1 down there, and the Janissaries both die. And then I'm going to tire my... Oh, they killed my resource. Okay, hang on. I should have... Oh, I don't even have that. Wait, what? Oh, no. I don't have enough resources. They killed the resource. Yeah, I don't know why I thought I had more resources. Oh, this is really bad. This is really bad. Yeah, so... Now I can't even afford to play the Janissaries. I don't know why I still thought I had that resource here. I could give up the crack snipers to play Janissaries, but I think I should probably save them to kill this guy. This has totally screwed my whole situation here. It's such a bummer. Okay, well, we'll tire this. It takes the damage. It kills these guys. And it does the damage to the cannon over here. It doesn't move. Okay, back to the Spanish turn. NY Raider fan says, I've pledged for this game, as well as 1815 Scum of the Earth, which will be my first experience with the HEB system. Hopefully I made a good choice. Well, you're about to find out, once this is over. The review's at the end, folks. We gotta play the solo mode first. I know, it's, some of you only want to hear the review, but that would be a very short live stream, so I'll hang out and play the solo mode first. Besides, I hadn't played the solo mode before I learned it for this, and then it took me hours to learn the solo mode, so I shall impart this wisdom to you. So this is the Maltese militiamen, and we've seen them before. They're pretty basic, and they're just going to go out here. That's fine. They're actually worse than the Maltese swimmers that were here before. They have 1 more hit point, but they're actually technically worse. So now I'm going to have to pass. Pass back to the Spanish player. I'm just going to look for another card. We've got Don Constantino. When played, he's got a scholarly ability, so the AI skips those. So he's basically just 2 might, 2 wounds. It says here, Constantino was sent to assess St. Elmo during its death throes. When the men there threatened mutiny, he appealed to their pride, offering to raise many volunteers to Burgoo to replace them. He's going out here. Like this. And that's the end of that. So now we're going to move on. Oh, actually, it's not the end of that. The AI should use this to force me to discard a card. Which was Enraged Janissary. This is like the other Janissaries, but not as effective, I guess, because he's blinded by anger. Enraged at the carnage inflicted on his comrades, a Janissary leapt onto the parapet at Saint-Neglia and shot a French knight, Chevalier Laquinet. the head at point-blank range before being cut down by another knight. Well, it would have been apropos to play him, because all my Janissaries just died, but he also died, so I guess that's the end of that. Okie dokie. And that's that. So now we're going to do the Frontiers phase, which we haven't done before. The Frontiers phase consists of two parts. First, a might conflict and then a zeal conflict. But you only carry out the might conflict when both players are on the Siege of Malta, the Great Siege of Malta. Because the Spanish are not yet there, we're just going to do the zeal part. And with the zeal part, all we do is count up all the zeal for everyone on both sides. And then if whoever has more gets to put a 1 wound onto the frontier, and if both players have the same, they both get to put a wound onto the frontier. However, in this instance, because the Spanish are not yet at the Great Siege, if they don't have as much zeal as me, they don't get to put a wound out. So by beating me, all they prevent is me placing a wound. So in this case, they've got 1 wound in this column. I've got 4, so I get to put a wound on St. Elmo. This is helping me get a bit more of a head start there. And then over here, I've got 0 zeal, and you only count readied cards, so Soliaga wouldn't count even if he had zeal against the 4 zeal of their leader, so that's fine. I've got 0 to their 0 as well. I should have more, but my Janissaries all died, and I don't want to talk about it. So, with that in mind, we will now tick up to... No, we do their scenario. So they've got 3 zeal here on their scenario here out of the 6 they need. I managed to kill off the swimmers, so now it's just 4 zeal that they've got, so they actually only get to... They've got 5 zeal that they've got, so they only actually get to put 2 down here, which is really good for me. I'm going to have to try and leverage this sort of speed advantage that I've got as much as possible, because this is only going to get more difficult and more contentious. Right, and so with this in mind, we take this on to round 10. They're now on 5 resources, but they already had effectively 5 thanks to this tactic, so it's much over much. They'll play whatever card they draw from their deck now, including all their most powerful cards. So that's great. And I'm going to get 3. Alright, what do we got here? 0 cost card. Italian Traitor. No zeal, 1 might, 1 wound. When played, tire 1 non-leader enemy in this card's frontier. Oh yeah, I could actually play him out for free to tire this cannon. That's interesting. So, there we go. The Italian Traitor. We've got Mehmet Ben Mustafa. Marksman. When played, deal 1 wound to 1 non-enemy leader. That might be better. He's got a zeal and a cannon on him. So if I play him out into that frontier, he can deal a wound to that cannon and kill it. And also, he can add a zeal, so I can actually start doing wounds on Burgu. And then we've got Thorough Preparation, which is the second tactic that gives me a resource. Kind of see the resource there above the tactic, word tactic. And this actually can prevent a damage to a character as well, thus saving them potentially. Just like the sturdy armor of the Spanish. No army on Earth was more resourced and prepared for war than the Ottomans. When their guns pounded Burgu and Sanglia, the shattering rumble of the gunfire could be heard 12 miles away in Syracuse. Oh, the playmats, the playmat NY Raider fences, the 1066 playmat looks beautiful. It does, and actually all of the playmats look great. The artwork in this series is phenomenal. Absolutely fantastic. So I've got to lose 1 of these cards. Now, what I need to do is take a quick resource count, because I lost track last turn, and I actually didn't play out all my resource. I thought I had a resource that I didn't have, which turned out to be a problem. So I've got 3 resources, and what I'd like to do is play both of these cards, which is kind of a problem. Actually, no, it's not. I can do that. But only if I play this card first, at which point it will be too late to play that card. See, herein is the problem. I'd like to save my cannon, because it's got 2 might on it. If I use the cannon to deal 1 damage down the line, I will destroy it. It will blow up. But I need to take this thing out. Well, actually, this thing will just kill my cannon. It already killed everything else. So maybe that's fine. maybe that's fine. Maybe I just let this cannon kill my cannon. I might actually be okay with that. Or I could try and save my cannon. Because Might 2 is not to turn your nose up at, and I don't have a whole lot of... I really want to play both of them. I really want to play all three of these guns. It's such a bummer. The cracked snipers, though, are really good. The thing is, I'm not going to be able to play them this round. I'm suffering from a bit of... It's lucky I got this resource. I'm suffering from a bit of a resource deficit. If I lose either of these resources, I'm going to be in real trouble. I do kind of want to get something with Zeal into this frontier, though. Because I need to start leveraging my Zeal advantage. So yeah, I think maybe I let their cannon kill my cannon. I play both of these cards, and then I get a resource and I get a Zeal in here. And just hopefully nothing too bad is played out here to replace it. We'll just have to see. Ooh. Alright. So with that in mind, let's ready up stuff. And... God, once we get to the siege, though, I'm actually screwed. Like, losing those Janissaries has gone from good to just awful. So the first thing I'll do is I'll tap these two resources here. Or tire these two resources to play Thorough Preparation. Oh, actually, I could use Thorough Preparation to save my cannon. And then I can't play him. Oh yeah, so I've actually gotten rid of the traitor. And then I can't play him. How do I feel about that? Then I won't have my Zeal to get my wound. Or I can give up, say, the patrol ships, because they're so expensive. I mean, they're absolutely fantastic. 1 Zeal, 4 might, and 4 wounds. They're amazing, but they're so expensive. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to play them. And holding on to them, I'm just wasting the opportunity to get sort of more of an advantage now. They're so good, though. Do I let the guns get destroyed? It could be so clutch. Could give up the cracked snipers and just hope I get a better card. It is really tough to decide what the best thing to do is. Yeah, okay, let's we'll give up the cracked snipers, I think, actually. Play out this guy. I mean, we lose a might, but we keep the cannon, which is 2 might. So what I'll do, what the AI will do is tap their... That guy should be readied. They'll hire their cannon to do 1 damage to the cannon and 1 damage to my cannon, and then I'll tap thoroughly prepared to prevent the damage. So they just destroy their... And then I shall tire my ship and pay the cracked snipers. I don't know why I'm hanging on to this patrol ship. I'm never going to get to play it, but it could be so clutch if I somehow do. To play Mehmet Ben Mustafa in here, and he gets to deal 1 damage, 1 non-leader enemy. So is there anyone with 1 hit point I want to get rid of? Really? But this guy kind of sucks, so we'll put a wound on him. Okay. Back to the AI. They've got Valet's crossbows. Oh no, it's a ranged unit. Is it? No, it's an attachment. 1 might. Destroy this card to deal 1 damage to every enemy in 1 frontier attached to a unit. So it won't use the action. The AI won't use the action. I don't think. Yeah, they won't use the attachment. They'll just use it for +1 might, which is still pretty bad. So it's an attachment, so they'll attach it to a unit in the leader's frontier, because they'll prioritize attachments in here. So they'll actually put it here because they can't attach it to this guy. He's a character. So the galley slaves now have +1 might, which is kind of a bummer, actually, because I could have killed them. But then this attachment would have just gone somewhere else, so I guess it's fine. Alright, and then it's back to me. I think I'm going to have to pass because I've got no more resources and nothing else to do. No cards or anything. So I pass. The Spanish are going to trigger their ranged and their artillery. They have none, but they'll trigger their end of round effect, which is this guy. I burn one more of my cards, which is the Ottoman sappers that we saw from before up here. Dealt a wound to St. Elmo. They'll play one more card. Hopefully something that doesn't have a lot of zeal on it. Oh no. Matherin Romagas, a legendary knight who once spent the night trapped in the sea on an overturned ship, the finest Christian sailor in the Mediterranean, says Ernie Bradford. Well, he's got 3 might, and I hate him. So he comes out here. God, I can't believe I lost all my Janissaries. I'm so upset. I never really used them before, but now I miss them so badly. Alright, and then we're on to the frontier, and we're on to the zeal part. I'm going to get one more wound over here, where I've got 3 zeal to their 1 zeal. I'm going to get nothing here, but they get nothing either because they're not at the siege yet. Then over here, I've got 1 zeal to 0 zeal, so I get 1 wound on Bergu, which is a start. And then they're going to work on their objective again. They've got, actually, I destroyed, nope, they've got this guy over here. So they've got 5 to the 3 there, so they get 2 more wounds on this. So next turn they're going to complete this objective. That's that. I miss getting my cards though. That's a shame. I'm going to advance this to the next round, although it really doesn't matter because we're on max resources now. And what have we got here? Ooh, we got some cavalrymen. That's good. So we've got the rebellious Spanish. Take control of an enemy Spanish card and place it in the same frontier on your side. Well, that's great. I really needed that. We've got these holy men who are kind of just hanging out. They've got a zeal and a might. But when they're played, I draw a card, which is always nice. And when they're destroyed, my entire frontier suffers -1 zeal. And then we've got the Sapphists, who are horsemen. And when they're in the final row, they get +1 might. So they're might 3. So that's pretty good as well. Cheap and cheerful. Missio check, yeah. Get out of here. What is that, Don Juan? Don Juan reference? Don Romagas? Okay. So, I need to do some math now to work out just how screwed I am. Because they're going to trigger the Great Siege at the end of the next round. So 2 rounds from now, we're going to be doing the might conflict, where we're going to total up the might on both sides and compare. So on this side here, they've got 5 might to my 4, so I need another unit back here to help me win this fight. Although I've got enough of a head start on St. Elmo that I think it'll be okay. Over here, they've got 3, 4, 5, 6 might to my 3 might, so 3 rounds and I lose Sanglia. That's not necessarily a problem, provided I win Bergu as well. So I need to win 2 of these 3 frontiers if I want to win. I mean, if I win all 3, that'd be great, but I don't see that happening. So they've got 5, 6 might here to my 3 might. So this is a big problem, because I need to win this frontier. This guy's showing up, big problem, but I'm thinking I might just take control of him with the rebellious Spanish, because it says here, take control of an enemy Spanish card. It doesn't say a non-character or unit or infantry, so I need this card to take control of this 5-cost character. And then that's a huge swing in my favor when we get to the next part. Then I've got Spahis, the Spahis cavalry here, who I think are also great, and I could pop them in the back here for another 3 might. So we'll keep them as well. I guess we'll get rid of these holy men. So I can untap that, untire all of these cards. So I can't play all these cards this round, and I don't really want to either, because it's not necessary yet. Like, I don't think I need to take control of this guy right now, because he's not doing anything until next round. So right now, all he's doing is sitting there with 0 zeal, so that's fine. but I do want to spend some resources this round as well. So I've got 4. Oh god, should I give up this unit to just play out the patrol ships? I'm so tempted. That would basically just be like do one thing and then pass. So the AI would only have a chance to play 2 cards. I like this plan because it costs all 4 of my resources, so I'm using them, but also I'm using them all at once, so I'm not giving the AI too many chances to do anything. So yeah, as cool as I think these guys are, I think playing out the patrol ships is a better call. So I'm going to tire all of my resources here. This is also probably the last chance I'm going to get to tire these 2 cards, because once this conflict starts, if these guys are tired, they won't be able to face off on both sides, which will be... They'll basically not contribute to the frontier battles. So that's a huge problem, because if I let the Spanish take Sanglia too quickly, then their leader will move to one of the other frontiers, and I don't want that. So, like at all. So we're going to tire all of these cards, and we're going to give up the Spahis cavalry, play the patrol ships into this position. Same frontier, so here. Yeah, because when I use this card, I need to move him up here. He needs to go to the same frontier. He basically turncoats with Barbie. I don't think that this guy actually would turncoat. It says here he spent the night in an overturned ship, and that he was the finest Christian sailor in the Mediterranean. Maybe that's why he turncoat. He admired my amazing navy. He was like, ooh, boats! I love the Sultana! Alright. I love Sultanas. Right, when I play Parali's patrol ships, I can look at the top 4 cards of my deck and put them back in any order. So what have we got here? I don't... Okay, actually, 2 of these cards are really, really good. We've got... Actually, 3 of these cards are events that just destroy my enemies, which is kind of really interesting. So... We've got this guy, Candelisa. He's very provocative. Looks a bit like Hispanic Orlando Bloom. Alright. Candelisa led the Ottomans to believe there was a breach in the walls of Sanglia. There was no breach. The Ottomans attacked but were repelled and chased into the sea, where they were massacred in their thousands, turning the sea red. Alright, well I guess that's why he's shit. I like how he has cunning. He's not cunning at all. He's 0 cost and does basically nothing for me. So, I guess I'll put him on the bottom. I'm just going to get rid of him, actually. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll put him in with the 3 on top so that he can be the one I get rid of. So, now we've got Planting Mines, which is great. It allows me to deal 2 damage to a frontier. That's awesome. I definitely want this card. But the question is, do I want it in my next pull? I think probably, maybe. I've got red surcoats here, who say they'll destroy 1 non-leader character. That's great. I can take out this guy, or perhaps someone worse if they play him out. I'm not worried about this guy because I'm going to get him with the rebellious Spanish. We've also got Gunpowder Explosion, which is destroy 1 non-leader enemy. That's basically any enemy card that's not the leaders. This is even better than the last card I looked at. So, I think what I'll do actually is I'll put the... I'll put the red surcoats and the gunpowder explosion. I'm just trying to think how I'm going to use them on. Like, this destroy a character thing. I'll tell you what, I'll put the destroy character one in so I can destroy this guy. But they'll just replace him. The thing is, they'll just replace him with something possibly better. I mean, Might 2 is okay, but it's not great. And now I've got so much Might here, I'm pretty much just going to overwhelm this frontier, I think. I've got such a head start on it. I'm going to get another zeal point this turn as well, I think. Whereas this destroy 1 non-leader enemy, that could be really clutch if some other awful surprising thing happens. And these mines I really like as well. So I think maybe we'll put the mines in here and I can use those on Burgu to get a bit of a head start there. Yeah, and we'll put the gunpowder explosion on the bottom. So that one goes on the bottom, and these three go on top. So that'll make up my pull next round, and we can get rid of that punning idiot. All right, cool. So that's me. So now the Spanish get to play a card. Well, they would do artillery and then ranged, but they don't have any. They're not going to use that till the end of the round, so they're just going to play a card. The card is a character. Oh, it's a 5-cost character. God damn it. This is why we prepare. He's got 2 zeal, 3 might. Oh, he's even better than the other ones. So the when played and response are both ineffective, so he's just got good numbers. Previously a slave of the Tripoli Corsairs, Robert gave astonishing sermons to inspire the people of Malta, dispensing homilies and sacraments lasting 40 hours. He fought at St. Elmo with crucifix in one hand, sword in the other. Alright, so what he's going to do is he's going to replace their cheapest unit because their board is full, which is the galley slaves, actually. So that's a might and 2 zeal upgrade at Senglia. I'm really screwed in this frontier, and I need to do something about it, or it's going to fall, like, immediately, and then I have a major problem. Fortunately, I think I can assassinate that guy. Pretty sure next turn, hopefully. So, I pass, they get one more card. Bastion Walls. It's an event card. It says action. 1 unit gains +2 might until the end of the round. Oh, good. He's going to play this, and I get to pick the unit, and also it does not matter at all. So, we'll give the +2 might to this jerk, because it doesn't matter. Oop. Okay, cool. So now we're into the frontier phase again, and I've got 4 might to their 4 zeal to their 1 zeal here, so I get to put another wound on St. Elmo. Over here, they've massively out-zealed me, but they're not yet at the siege. And over here, I've got 1 to their 0, so I get 1 more wound on Burgoo. Grand. And then it's their objective. They've now got so much zeal with this guy that this objective is completed, and they arrive at the siege of Malta. So now we're going to start this conflict in earnest. Okay, and these go away. Oh, I forgot to do... Oh, no! I forgot about this. Oh, what a fool I've been. I think this is going to throw the whole game. Yep. That one card that I prepared just in case this guy shows up, I forgot about their end of round ability that discards it. Oopsie! Oopsie doodle. Well... Oh, well, now I'm going to draw the other one I had, and I can just kill him with that. It's just a bit more expensive, which is a problem, but... Or maybe I take him with this. Is it better to take him from there? No, because I need to capture Burgoo. I don't know, because I don't... Oh, God. If I capture him and put him up here, that's going to lock this guy into a stalemate for ages, pretty much. But if I don't capture Burgoo, what's the might comparison here? I've got 3 might to their 6 might. See, if they're 6 might, they're going to capture Burgoo, and I'm going to lose. Ooh. Well, I don't need to decide right now, because we're going to advance this to round 12, but it's irrelevant, and we're going to draw 3 cards from the top of this deck. And yeah, we're going to get... yeah, exactly. So we got the gunpowder explosion in this hand instead of the next hand. And we've got this dork that we can get rid of. Okay, so we're going to ready up these cards. And we're going to press on. So, on the St. Elmo front, my might is 8 compared to their might of 5. So actually, I probably capture St. Elmo this turn unless they significantly upgrade one of these cards, which I don't think they will, because all 3 of these cards are next in line for an upgrade, and I can decide which one gets upgraded. So I've pretty much captured St. Elmo this turn, which means that the turn after this, I can start using my leader to move himself, or probably what I'll do is I'll move these boats somewhere. I'm tempted to put them over here, which would swing this one in my favor, I think, because I'd have 4, 5, 6, 7 might to their 6 might, but just a 1 might advantage is so poor. Of course, I could always destroy the cannon to do something. These characters are both hugely problematic. I can deal with them both now by killing one. So maybe I kill this guy, capture that guy, and then move my boat up here. It just depends what he's replaced with, you see. It can't be as bad as him, though. It's got to be less bad than him. That's cost 4 resources, though. Which means that I'm going to be 1 might short of capturing Elmo, because I'm going to have to tap this guy. Sugar. Right? Yeah. So actually, it would have been much better if I had that kill a character card. Because, you know, then I could have... I don't know, but I'm not, like... The thing is, even if this boat... I mean... I don't really want to spend 1 more turn fighting St. Elmo. Let's see, what's the situation here? So, I'm also going to have to tap this guy, which means I'm going to have 2 might versus 7 might. Plus, they're going to win the Zeal fight. So that means they're going to get 6 wounds on Sanglia this round, which is absolutely egregious. I cannot allow that to happen. So I think... I mean, I'm not going to compete with them on Zeal either. So... It doesn't really matter whether I take this guy... Yeah. Okay, so I think we capture this guy. It's possible I could put my leader plus this guy, and I might actually be able to capture Seneglia if I can get St. Elmo fast enough. But what I can't do is dilly-dally. So, these are both going to be tapped, though, actually. If I play these cards out. This is a huge problem, because I'm not going to be contributing the might from the boats. God, the Spanish have quite a mighty force arrayed against me here. Yeah, for better or for worse, that I think we need to capture this guy too, because these two are going to be tapped. So we're going to tap both of these guys to play Rebellious Spanish, capture their their astonishing priest, who I don't think would have actually allowed himself to be killed. Okay. And then they're going to play a card. Oh, God. Everything is bad. Harbor Chain. On May 7th, as part of the defense preparations, a gigantic chain was pulled out by boat from Sanglia to Burgu to seal the harbor mouth against attack, causing the Ottomans to rely even more heavily on their land-based cannons rather than their ships' guns. So this is destroy 1 enemy navy. Well, that sucks, because I've only got 2 navy cards, and they're both incredible. So, I'm going to give up the galleys because they're currently tapped. It sucks to lose a resource, but this 4 might here, I need this, I think. It's super essential. Oh, God. Also, they're not doing anything this round, whereas these guys are contributing 4 might this round, so that seems pretty obvious to me. And then my next thing, I will tire this guy and that one to play Gunpowder Explosion to blow up this guy. Get out of here. That's their 2 5-cost cards done. Hopefully that will be enough. They're going to play 1 more card here. It's a shitty character. Great. So this is Don Garcia de Toledo. 1 Zeal, 0 Might. It says draw 3 cards. Well, they're going to ignore that part. All hopes for salvation rested on Don Garcia's much-delayed relief force. Protesting his impatient knight's refusal to call him Excellency, one replied, "Provided we arrive in Malta in time, I will give you what titles you please." Well, he sounds like a dickhead. And that's lucky for me and bad for the Spanish. He's going in here and he's totally useless for them because they've already got me beat on zeal and he has 0 might. Alright, that was pretty clutch. Now I'm going to pass. And so they're going to get one more. They're going to tap these guys and kill whatever card I have here. Please don't be something great. Ooh, it was more Corsairs with resource on them, so that's kind of a bummer, but I mean, it could have been worse, I suppose. They're going to play one more card out. In here, which I really hope is not high might. Oh, no, in fact, it's an event. Deal 6 damage to Romega to an objective, or play a card for free. Well, they're going to use the bottom part, play a card for free, which is effectively the same as drawing another card. Low might. No, it's incredible. It's another 5-cost character. God damn it! Oh. I just remembered they don't actually do this round because they stop doing it when they arrive at the siege. Eguras was a commander of proven valor and experience and the captain of succors. He was horribly injured at St. Elmo and, like Miranda, placed in a chair with his sword to continue the fight until his death. Wow. He's got 4 might and I hate him. That's a bummer. Alright. So, now we're going to do the frontier battles. So, we're going to start with might this time. So here I've got 7 might against my enemies, 5 might, so I get to do 2 wounds. So I'm going to have to get some more green wounds out here, I think. Over here, I've got 3 might against my enemies, 4 might, so they're going to do a wound. And then down here, I've got 4 might against my enemies, 7 might. So that sucks. This is a huge problem that I hadn't really anticipated. And I'm not sure how to resolve it currently. But we'll see what happens. So, now we're going to do Zeal. Once again, here I've got 4 Zeal, so I win that one. So I need to get more green wounds. There are some in the box. So close to destroying St. Elmo, to capturing St. Elmo. Wow. And then we've got the Zeal conflict down here, and so it's my 2 versus their 4, 5, so that's 1 more for the Spanish. And over here, my 1 Zeal against their 1 Zeal, so we both get 1, which is still less than 9. No, they're ahead of me here. It's such a bummer. Okay. And that's the end of that. So we move on to round 13, where I'm obviously going to be very lucky. I'm going to draw 3 of these cards here, and we're going to crack on. All right, what have we got? Show me something that can help me with this problem. Okay. We've got more... Well, we've got the Corsairs, because they didn't actually use their ability, who are not all that great, although resources is good. We've got a character here who's kind of a bummer. He's scholarly, so he lets us look at cards. Ali Portubay, governor of Rhodes. Ali Portubay was a fierce Ottoman warrior who was killed later in the siege during the raging battle at Burgoo. Oh, so it'd be sensible to place him down at Burgoo, but I'm not going to. Neat. And this guy, who I don't know if I'm going to get to play because he's so expensive, but it does say move 1 Ottoman unit or character to a different frontier, which is very useful at this stage, although his stats are great. He does have resource on him. An extremely capable mariner, Luj Ali, or Oki Ali, chief governor of Alexandria, was appointed by Piral Pasha to become Turgut's successor as Bey of Tripoli after Turgut Reis was killed during the siege. So, what I'm thinking here is I've got only 3 resources, But if I play him out somewhere, like here, I can send my boat over here for free, which will buy me time in Burgu. I'm gonna win St. Elmo anyway, unless, like I said, they massively upgrade one of these things, because I only need one more point. And I've got 3 zeal there, so my 3 zeal will win me St. Elmo on zeal. So I think moving this boat over here right away is clutch, because this guy's ruining my day. I mean, unfortunately, that's just going to tie us on might. So then it's just going to become a zeal war, which I'll be winning by 1. And I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I need some way to deal with this character. He's going to be improving these cards, which is going to cause me a bad time. So, I don't really know what to do about that. Yes. I would love to kill him somehow, but I don't have any cards to do that with. I need to deal 3 damage to do that. So I'm going to have to get rid of one of these. So I think I get rid of this guy. As much as I like his ability, I think these 2 resources are going to be super important. But I think, yeah, so I think I'm going to do very few actions this turn. I'm going to have to discard something as well, which I think will have to be the Corsairs if I'm going to play this guy. But I think that he's more important. And Planting Lights gets me 2 wounds on a frontier, so that's too good to lose at this stage. But I'm not going to play it yet because I don't need to. So I think I'm going to tire this one and this one, discard this card, play Occhiali into here, which allows me to move the boat, Pyali's patrol ships over here, which basically locks this down. He also kind of helps reinforce the situation over here. This 1 zeal is still really annoying, but then there's a zeal there, so I'm always going to lose zeal on this front. The point is, I've tied up Senglia and their leader long enough to potentially call this back. So I have to give them a turn now, and they're going to draw a card, which is an attachment, Moral Raising Parades. Attached to a unit, the unit gains zeal +1. Well, that's fine, because it's actually... Oh, damn it. It says attached to a unit. Alright, well, I'm going to attach it to this unit. I get to choose. So the priority would be the leader's frontier, but these are all 3 of them characters, and none of them are units. You know, you can tell a unit because it says unit. So if it can't be attached to anyone here, then it's player's choice. So I'm just going to put it on this cheap unit over there, because if I put it down here, I'm not going to be winning the zeal battle over here anymore. And then I'm going to pass because I don't want to tire anything else, and I can't play it. So one more card for the Spanish. Okay, so this is basically pointless. It's an event that says, I mean, it's pointless now. Water, gunpowder, cattle, and slaves are organized and assigned to certain knights within the order, and a system of fire signals and cannon shots warned of the enemy's approach. So play a card with -3 on the cost. That's fine, because they get to play every card for free. Oh no, Maltese women and children. This card sucks. Although actually it's not too bad now. It sucks early game when it's tiring your whole deck out. The Maltese women, powered by a mainstay of the defense forces, nursing the sick, carrying the the Maltese women proved a mainstay of the defense forces, nursing the sick, carrying ammunition, cooking supplies, and repairing the forts and defending the walls alongside their children against the attack. So this is a 2-cost unit, so they're going to replace a 1-cost unit with it. It's got 1 zeal and 1 might on it, so I might as well get rid of this unit because it's no net change. And this is a 1-cost unit, so they were going to replace this unit, this character here, this one here. But these 2, I like where they are. And there should probably be a note under the AI that says if a unit has an attachment, treat it as being more expensive. But there isn't, so I'm not going to do that. I need all the help I can get. It's hard. So now that we've resolved that, they're not going to use their end of round ability here. And so it is back to the frontier stage, where might here, I think they actually win on might now. They've got 5 to my 3, so they get to put 2 wounds onto St. Elmo. And then over here, it's might. I've got 5 to their 4. So I'm actually going to get to put a wound on Sanglia, which I didn't actually plan to capture this, but you know, it's okay to get that kind of front if you can. Over here, my might is now 7. They're also 7, so it's a complete tie, so nobody gets anything. And now we're going to do Zeal. I've got 3 to their 2, so I put 1 more wound on St. Elmo's and actually capture it. So I get to take this card. And we want to keep track of the... Well, yeah, we'll keep the wounds there, and we'll capture St. Elmo. So put that on our side of the... you can use the wounds you placed out here to calculate a numerical score at the end of the solo mode if you like. You keep all the wounds from all 3 fronts to total up your score, because you might only capture... Well, you only need to capture 2. Over here, I'm on 3 Zeal to their 5, so they get another wound on Sanglia. And over here, I've got 2 Zeal to their 1, so I get 1 more wound on Bergu. So we're still neck and neck over there. And then we move on to round 14. And draw 3 cards. Alright, show me some glorious cards, please. Oh, we've got a gun. We've got a 3-wheeled gun. We've got more... Ooh, Janissary snipers. That's cool. Janissary snipers embedded themselves in concealed trenches, waiting for hours with exacting patience for the perfect opportunity. With unerring accuracy, they shot dead 30 defenders in a single day. Spahis cavalry are back, so they're might 3 if they're in the final row. And we've got more heavy-wheeled guns, so another piece of artillery that's actually the same as the one over here. So we could theoretically use this to try and take out this character if we wanted, because we could action this to fire across the row. It would then be destroyed, everyone would move down. We could put this one at the back, potentially fire again, he'd be down to 1 wound. We've also got the Janissary snipers, actually, who could be used to snipe him as well. But so I'll give up the cavalry, I think, just because I don't have anywhere to put them currently. And then we'll ready up. So I've got this kind of problem now where I'm kind of at a bit of a stalemate here. I could get ahead using the mines, but if they upgrade this card or this card, which they're wont to do, I might start losing this might battle again, so I think it behooves me to kind of think ahead. Of course, the issue I face is that the more actions I take to try and upgrade my situation, the more chances I give the AI to benefit themselves. But I don't think I'm going to be able to get much of a might advantage over here unless I kill this guy. Because I currently have, like, they've got 8 cost units in this row. I've got 10 cost units in this row, so I should really be ahead on might, but I'm not. So I can use, actually, I could use... Let me have a think here. I could use him to... I mean, I'll probably just use the gun to kill itself, right? But I can't replace it with something with higher might. So it just kill itself to deal wounds to all of these people. I don't really care about dealing wounds to these 2. They're going to get replaced with better units anyway. So killing them would kind of just be a kind of an unfortunate side effect. I could play the... But I could deal a wound across the front and then play the snipers into the back and then use the snipers to just try and pick this guy off. It just means that I'm going to have a few rounds where... I mean, for a start, I'll have to tire these 2, which really sucks. It's also potentially better to just give up on this frontier and actually maybe move Solaga over here so I can keep using his resource. Play a better unit, like the wheeled guns or the snipers, into the back here, which would give me another might. So then I'd have 5, 6, 7. There, 4. I mean, that feels like honestly a better advantage to me. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to tire my leader to use his leader ability to move an Ottoman unit, and I'm going to move Sol Aga back here. These two will drop down, and it's the Spanish turn. Uh-oh. Destroy one non-leader enemy with Zeal 0. Greek fire pots. Well, shit. Can't do anything about that, so I guess someone's just gonna die. Someone got set on fire. Ooh, what does it say? Flamey weapons. Greek fire or wildfire was made from saltpeter, sulfur, pitch, resin, turpentine, and unrefined ammoniacal salt. Packed into unbreakable pots, it was a deadly forerunner of the Molotov cocktail. Odd. Oh, is he like launching it? It looks like he's using it like a flamethrower, but... Oh yeah, I guess he is actually. Like I guess the canister is full of this stuff. And he's just flaming it out. Ooh, God. Alright, well, someone got burned to death. So, I'm thinking maybe the cannon, because I can kind of just replace it. Like, on this front, I'm still 5 might to their 4 might, so this is still kind of a stalemate. I can't kill off these 2 units, so it's either this cannon or this resource, and I think I really need this resource. So I think we just kill off this cannon, and then these 2 will drop down. And then on my turn, I'll just play out 1, 2, 3 resources to put another cannon out here. Where do we put the snipers? Now, we'll put the cannon, because actually the cannon could technically kill this guy eventually. No, but by the time the cannon... The problem is, by the time the cannon kills this guy, because it has to tire to do it, then it doesn't contribute to this, I'll probably lose this before I kill that guy. Yeah, I think I need to go with my plan to try and catch Sickly. It's just this card has delayed me a turn. Alright, back to the Spanish. Fortified refugees. This is an event. Remove all damage from 1 unit or character. Oh no, they have healed their character. Okay. Back to me, and I'm going to have to pass because I'm all out of stuff to do. So the Spanish... this guy should tap to use his ability, but it says that if they're on the Siege of Malta, he doesn't. So he just stops doing it, even though this front is taken. So it feels like he should do it, but I guess that's just the way it is. So we can their card, their last card. Italian soldiers unit tireless. Oh God, I don't like it. 3 might. So they're going to replace a 1 cost somewhere. Oh no. Oh no, what do I do now? I'm going to replace either this one or this one. So I can put them down here, which will give them, what, a 3 might advantage? So they've got 1, I've got 4, 5, 6, 7. They're 7. So they'll have a 2 might advantage. Alright, I think I do this. Put it down here. Because a couple shots from the cannon will kill her. Whereas if I put it down here, if I'm going to try and take this front, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards at the moment. Yeah, I think we continue to press on this front, so... Clutch. I don't know how this is going to turn out, actually. Alright. God, that's unfortunate. Alright, so back to the rest of this, where we're going to go to the middle here and do might, and I'm ahead by 1. I'm going to get 1 loot from might. I'm going to lose on zeal, though. They might not be able to catch up on this. And then over here, I'm now behind by 2. So that sucks. Zeal, where they're going to get 1 here. I think I'm still ahead on Zeal here, because I've got 2 there. to around 15. And 3 more cards. Alright, show me something clutch. This is pretty clutch. Naval blockade. Attached to a frontier, it gets might +2. So this just gives me 2 might in these frontier assaults. So attaching that to Sanglia will be enormously helpful. Got a character. Oh. It says here, Hayali's Armada formed a naval blockade around the harbor to isolate the defenders from reinforcements and try to prevent them from crossing the bay. We've also got here Sanjak Cheddar, celebrated fighter. When played, draw 3 cards. Decide on yeah, so he's scholarly. He's 2 might. This famous old soldier was determined to take Saint Michael, but his brilliant clothes made him an immediate target, and he was killed by a Chevalier Pessoa, which caused great consternation to the Ottomans. Oh dear. It's like the Indiana Jones scene, he just got shot. And then we've got here St. Elmo Death Trap. Cancel an enemy event as it is played. Destroy 1 attachment. Upon taking the Ravelin, the Janissary could fire down into St. Elmo at will whilst... Upon taking the Ravelin, the Janissaries could fire down into St. Elmo at will, whilst engineering, tunneling, and bridge building continued. They hammered the fort with gunfire. Nowhere was safe for the knights. It's pretty grim. But I think... So I don't think we're going to take Sanjak, so we can get rid of that and take these other 2 cards. So, can we get both of these out? Let's ready up. Don't think we can get both of these out. It's a total of 5, and I have 4 resources, but I don't want to tire him because he's now contributing to this fight to me. But what we can do, I think, is possibly... Could we win the game this round? Let me just think here. I need 8 more points to capture St. No, I don't think we can win the game this round. Damn. I was just thinking about whether or not I could put enough might, maybe by moving the boat back over here. So that'd be 4, 7, 8, 9. Play this out. 10, 11. 11 might versus their 4. I guess that gives me 7, which puts me on 9. Oh, I could do that. Could do it. Provided they didn't improve any of these things. The question is, if I lost this from here, would I lose Burgoo? I'd be on 3. That'd do 6 Burgoo, which would capture Burgoo. Yeah, so I would lose Burgoo, and they would lose Sanglia. And I would win, because I would have 2 frontiers. So okay, well, let's do it. If nothing goes wrong, this is doable. So we might have to halt the plan. So let's start with this in case something bad comes out of the deck, Spanish deck. So we'll start with the simple part first. We're just going to tap these 2 here to play the naval blockade into Sanglia to give me +2 might. I guess we could. Well, I'll remember. You remind me if I forget. So now they're going to get to play a card. Sultana, attached to a frontier, gains zeal +1. So they're going to put the Sultana into Sanglia as well. Fortunately, I'm not planning to win with that. Visio says, like it ever does so far. Yeah, exactly. Like, nothing's gone wrong so far, so it should be fine, right? Okay, so I think we can deal with Sultana. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. So next up, we're going to discard St. Elmo Death Trap and tire this. Play Planting Mines again on Sanglia, which gives me +2 wounds. There's a Spanish card coming up. Arquebusiers. They're a ranged unit with 1 might, 2 cost. And they range 3. Well, they're going to replace this guy. They have to replace this guy because he's the longest card. That's fine though, because they're the equitable might. So it's not a problem. And now we shouldn't have too many problems because any cards that come out could replace any one of these. But you never know. We could get something that's like kill a guy. But this is the clutch play, so fingers crossed this pays off. We'll see. We're going to tire our leader to move Paoli's patrol ships over to here. And Spanish get another card, which is a unit, the Knights Hospitaller. They 3 cost, 3 might. So they're going to replace a 2 cost on the board. So let's get rid of something that's not in this column, like the Spanish soldiers here. Phew. Alright, and this is it. This is the clutch moment, because we're going to pass. So they're going to use their end of the round abilities. Again, she should probably use Tireless, but she's not going to because the AI doesn't do that. Then we're going to grab a card from here. So it's just a hero who's a 2 cost. So he's actually not going to play out because there's no cheaper cards. And I don't know if we have to draw another one if that happens. Let me just have a quick look here. If there's a tie for lowest value, no. If the card cannot replace a lower card cost, discard it. And the foe will not play another card. Okay, great. So that's the end of that. I think this might just be in the bag. Let's find out. First, we're going to do a might battle at Sanglia, which is 4. So we've got 4 plus 3 plus 2, which is 11 against their 4. So that's 7. So we get to put 7 out here, which puts us on 11. So we capture Sanglia. And we should remember that we've got 7 more on Sanglia because of the missing tokens. And then over here we've got they're going to put we've got 3 might, so they're going to put 6 tokens onto here, which gives them exactly 12. So they're going to capture Burgoo. And thus, that is the end of St. Elmo's Pay. Because I mean, you don't actually have to resolve all of the frontiers. The minute someone gets 2, the game ends. And that's the Spanish capturing Burgoo. So that's the end of the game. We can work out our score if we want to and find out what our title is. So you get 1 point for each damage token you placed on a frontier. So that's why we've kept these. So we've actually got 5 here and then another 5 there. That's 10 plus, so that's 16 plus 7 for 23 points. You get 5 points for winning. So that's 28. We get 5 points for each level above easy. So that's 10 more points. So that's 38. We get 30 points if we kill the leader, which we did not do. We got 38 points, which means we're a vassal. Show you guys the little chart there if you want to see it. Sort of. So you could be a Duke, a King, or a Conqueror, which is like better. Alright, well, that, I guess because I was reading all the cards and having a fun time reading all the cards, that took a lot longer than I thought it would. But also, we rewrote history. Exactly right, Mizio. The Ottomans don't normally win this fight. This is usually won by the Knights of St. John, so I feel kind of good about that. I don't really know enough about history to know who I should be supporting here. I'm just kind of sad loads of people died and it was a bad time, but at least it's over, and I feel like probably the Knights of St. John probably weren't being very nice, because weren't they the invaders? I don't know. This is dangerous territory, so I'm not gonna cover it too much. But that's the solo mode of St. Elmo's Pay. I don't know if I did everything 100% right there, so I do apologize if I've made any mistakes functionally. There is a long list of things that the AI ignores or doesn't ignore or triggers. And I think it's partly because a lot of the exceptions are to do with the fact that the AI could be both sides, so you can pick whichever one you want to be. I feel like it's a lot harder to parse the AI if the AI is the Ottomans, so I kind of gave myself an easier time of it by playing as the Ottomans, because um, bold keyword and the pulverize keyword are both keywords that trigger the AI's behavior quite a lot. We didn't see any bold cards come out on the Spanish side, but that's fine because the AI is triggered by bold. So it doesn't matter if it's on the AI's team. It only matters if it's on your team. And then the pulverize keyword is the inverse. So that's why the Ottomans are probably more complicated, because then the bold keyword is on your side, triggering their behavior, and the pulverize keyword is also on their side, triggering their behavior, because that's mostly an Ottoman keyword, pulverize. So anyway, without further ado, I guess we can get into the review section of this, because I haven't really talked about the Hebs games or St. Elmo's Pay or anything like that since Ollie and I did the playthrough on the channel all those years ago, and that was I mean, I think it was about 3 years ago now that we did that, but it feels like early days of the channel, but I guess it probably wasn't actually that long ago. And but of course, I remember being excited by the prospect of interworking the two games. So I've got the boxes down here. Put those up on the table as well. But I remember being excited by the prospect that you could um, fight the 1066 armies against the 1565 armies, which I believe is still probable. Um, Possible. I believe it's still possible. But I haven't done it yet, because 1565. Full transparency, Tristan Hall sent me both of these as review copies. I've met him a few times at conventions, and he was a lovely, lovely guy. Really, really nice chap. And I'd done that really long series we did on Gloom of Kilforth, and that was I backed that on Kickstarter, Gloom of Kilforth, which is Whole or Nothing Productions' first game, and now they've got a whole bunch more games. They've got like three, right? I mean, three sort of worlds. They've got the Kilforth games, which are these fantasy adventure games. They've got the Hebs games, which are these historic epic battle system games. Although I think when they designed 1066, it wasn't a term that they had, because they've put it on the bottom of the new ones, and it wasn't featured on the box for 1066. And now they've got this new thing coming out called Veil Wrath, which I didn't actually back. But so I said to him that I was intrigued by Gloom of Kilforth, although we didn't give it a very positive review when we were finished playing it. I think we were sort of lukewarm at best, and then hey Heggers, thanks for catching up, man. Oh, no worries. See, I was only able to win it because you weren't watching anymore. If you'd been there to sabotage me, something bad might have happened. But yeah, so I think we were at best lukewarm about Gloom of Kilforth. I haven't actually watched my review of that since I posted it, so I can't really remember what we said. But I remember the game was very, very long on a very hot day, so you never know. Sometimes, no, I think we're pretty objective about it. And I feel like my main complaint about that was all the tests seemed to be resolved in the same way. So Tristan Hall has actually sent me a review copy of Shadows of Kilforth, which I've been meaning to do a playthrough of, and I might do something like this where I play through it and then do a review at the end, because this is also from my reviewer's shelf of shame. So those are games that have actually been sent review copies of that I haven't reviewed. And I haven't done a live review before. This is very exciting. This is the first time, but I was keen to get it off the shelf and do it, because obviously 1815 is up on Kickstarter right now, and Tristan sent me this copy to review, and I never did it. And part of the reason I never did it was because I've met him, like I said, I met him twice a couple of times. He's a really nice guy. Whole or Nothing Productions is a sort of, I think, a dream of his to do, and I'm so happy that they're so successful. But um, the problem I've got is that I'm not a big fan of like any of their games. Without getting too much into it, we also played Lifeform, which was a game. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, they've got those 4 sort of games I talked about earlier, plus Lifeform, which is like a sort of alien game in space. It's a one versus many where a bunch of you are crew and one of you is an alien moving around the ship. And it's sort of like a Euro game, but it's got a lot of luck elements. And we actually filmed a series on it when they sent it to us, and we had such a bad time playing it. I never aired the series. So I didn't actually review it. And that's sort of so coming back to this, like I've gotta say, like I haven't actually managed to get 1066 to the table since we played it on the channel, and I haven't been entirely inclined to do so either. It's I think that they are much better games as head-to-head two-player games. The solo mode, which I hope I've made look easy, is not easy. I think it's janky. Let me get my notes. Hang on. First things first. They are 1 or 2 player games, but the new Kickstarter has, I think, rules for a 4-player game, which you can apply with more copies of the games. They say somewhere on the box that they're 30 to 40-minute games, but that's a lie. This was very long because I was reading all the cards. This playthrough is very long because I was reading all the cards out and we're looking at the art and stuff, which you might want to do if you're playing this game, and that's a point that I should come back to if you remind me, or I remember. But I think realistically, if you both know how to play and you're not sort of pondering over the cards, the card art, and reading all the flavor text, it's probably more like a 60 to 90-minute game. They are very affordable. They're 30 to 35 quid games, so they're very affordable. Came out in 2020. Sorry, this came out in 2020. I think this must have been 2018, and so 15 is now 2001. Probably going to come out next year, or maybe the end of this year. If I don't know how fast the turnaround is. And of course, they're designed by Tristan Hall and published by All or Nothing Productions, his company. And the art is absolutely wonderful. And I actually have the name of the artists in my other series, and I should have made a note of them. Didn't. But I actually rewatched my review of 1066 in preparation for this because I couldn't remember exactly what we said about it. And as I was rewatching it, I actually kind of thought that we were very generous. One of the major issues I had with 1066 from that playthrough was that the archers felt really overpowered, and then also they had a variation where they were like, you can play with the archers either before or after you arrive at the Battle of Hastings to pick off enemies on the other side. And I remember saying in the final thoughts, like, I wish that they just told me one way or the other how it should go. Like, pick a variation, tell me what I should play. And to their credit, they've done that in this. There's no more archer variant. The ranged fight happens all the way up to the the Siege of Malta. So they've gone with the advanced archer variant from Hastings and just kind of implemented it more fundamentally from 1066, which is good. I think that's better. So that's an improvement. I mean, and we commented throughout this video, I absolutely love the art of these games. Like, the art is fantastic. I don't think they're all done by the same artist from the previous game, or if they are, I think they had 2 artists on 1066. It might be that the art is done by one of the artists from that, but if we go here to the little camera, you can see these cards here. The art is just great, and it's evocative, and it's largely distinct on all the different cards. So, like, you can see that there's very little repeating art. We did see an example of it earlier where it had just been kind of inverted, but you know, there's so little repeating art, it's entirely forgivable. A game I've been learning recently is Alter Quest, and Alter Quest repeats art so much. I mean, to be fair, it's got 1,000 cards, so it'd be very expensive to get art for all those cards. But the point is, it's so nice and refreshing here to see all this wonderful art, and none of it is repeated, or very, very little of it is repeated. So the art is great. It's also extremely well researched. The game is super well researched. The history really comes across. The units are actually, I think, more thematic even than I give them credit for, because I don't fully understand the historical impact of the units or the role they played historically. So I think that the way that it's a highly thematic game that brings out the theme very strongly with the design of the cards, which is great. I think that, but my main complaint, I say my main complaint, but one of my issues with this game is that I think that it's too long. I actually said in the review for 1066 that it was quite short, and the blunder of a game we had with Ollie didn't really matter so much. Like the one we actually filmed, I think I played it 3 times with Ollie, and the game we filmed turned out to be an absolute massacre. And it's kind of a bummer when it can fall apart like that. And I think I said, but it was okay because it's relatively short. But I don't think it is actually that short. It's certainly not 30 to 40 minutes. It's more like 60 minutes to 90 minutes. And I think that that's kind of too long. Part of the problem I've got is this meandering through the objective cards at the start. It's essentially a game of 2 phases, where the first phase is building up these armies to get to the second phase, which is the resolving of the frontiers, or wedges if you're in 1066. And so it's really about who's built up the strongest army up to that point. And there's sort of 2 factors to it. There's essentially whether or not you're able to leverage range to take out good units on your enemy's side, or whether you're able to leverage resources at a greater rate to get out more powerful units more quickly. But there can be so many issues with the order of the deck, because of course if you run out of your deck of cards in the 2-player game, you lose. So if a lot of your resources are on the bottom, you're going to be ditching a lot of cards in order to find them, which gives you a big disadvantage. If you get a lot of your expensive cards up front, like I think you only get 3 or 4 5-cost cards, and if you wind up getting them too early, you ditch them to pay for stuff. You have to ditch them to pay for stuff before you can get them out, and that's kind of a real bummer. But the other thing is, like, if you do get the 5 costs early and then you want to play them, you also then make them vulnerable for this entire sort of preamble to what should feel like the meat of the game. I actually think that I don't know why the objective stuff is there. I like the objective cards theoretically because I like the historical aspect. I like the build up to this battle. You know, I like the idea that we're going through that process. But in practice, I actually think that the objectives work better in the solo mode, even though I think the solo mode has its own issues, which I'll get to. But I think that the objective cards actually work better than they do in the 2-player mode, because in the 2-player mode it just kind of feels like we could be doing more. We could be doing this and this at the same time, and that might feel like there was more going on. It was more involving. It feels like sort of 2 halves, right? A game of 2 halves, and overall it's too long, which is kind of the reason it's a problem. Again, if it was shorter, it wouldn't feel so much like a problem. But it's also weighted the wrong way around, because the end of the game, when you get to the wedges and the frontiers, that feels too short. So it feels like, you've spent 40 minutes or whatever getting up to that point, and then that point can be over really quickly, like in 10 or 15 minutes, and then that feels like it's the wrong way round. We spent twice as much time building up to the epic battle, which we then resolved really quickly. So I think in that way it can kind of feel a bit like, I don't want to say anticlimactic, because I think in theory it should feel very climactic, but I think that what it can do is it just feels like it drags, and it just feels like that first part doesn't have enough sort of going on. I think maybe they might have made that better in 1565, because I haven't actually been able to play that head-to-head, but I still kind of feel like you're a lot at the mercy of the cards, especially if you play the basic version of the game, where you don't draft anything. So I was playing the draw 3, discard 1 draft variant. There's 3 variants, which again I don't really like, because I prefer them to just sort of... I mean, if they're going to give me 3 variants, at least tell me the pros and cons of the 3 variants, beyond the fact that the drafting versions are going to hasten. I mean, I can kind of work it out for myself, right? But the drafting variants are going to hasten the end game because they mill the deck faster, whereas the basic variant, it doesn't give you any agency at all because you just draw the cards and then you have to play what you drew. But it's going to mill the deck less quickly, so the game is less likely to end that way. So if that's something you're trying to avoid, that's fine. But I think that the drafting variant is vastly superior because it gives you some more interesting decisions. And that's kind of my problem, is overall it feels... that leads me on to another point, which... it doesn't feel like there's a huge amount of interest in decision making. It feels like often there's kind of an apparent right choice. I think that there's a lot of elements here that I really, really like in theory. You know, I really like multi-use cards. I like the idea of discarding a card to play cards, that we have to make those tough choices. But it also kind of becomes exponential, because once you get cards out on the table, you know, resources out on the table, then it becomes a lot easier. So it's a game that's really hard to play catch up from on the back foot. And I think they've tried to sort of mitigate that with a lot of these cards like you saw me play, where, you know, or the Spanish card Destroy Navy, Ship, and the Ottoman cards Destroy the Characters, right? This is probably quite thematic because, you know, they're an occupying force during this siege, and their naval power laying siege to the city, right? So it makes sense that they would have cards to destroy the boats, they would have cards to destroy the characters. Again, great theme, really well brought out, using the mechanisms of the game. But I think that again, like, you know, if I was on the back foot and I was, you know, trying to get out one of these powerful navy cards, and my opponent had more resources, or for whatever reason was able to get out better cards earlier on, and was sitting on these event cards to kill those, you know, then I'd feel just kind of like I was going through this struggle for nothing, you know. And the game is too long for that. And that's kind of the other thing. Like I said, the resource cards can be quite elusive. There did feel like there was a lot more of them in this game, but I also feel like the Ottomans have more. So I don't know whether I was just... because I felt like in the 1066, the resource cards are very sparse. But again, it could be to do with the factions, although we did swap factions in 1066, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. But in this game, it feels like the Spanish have very light resource cards. The Ottomans have a lot of resource cards. So that's kind of why another reason I chose to play the Ottomans was because they just had more options to these resource cards. Whereas the Spanish doesn't matter so much because the computer has infinite resources essentially anyway. But there's this whole kind of thing. I remember when I was talking to Ollie about 1066, where if you're not getting enough resource cards and your opponent's using their archers or they've got artillery or whatever, they can pick off your resources early game and just continue to sort of stranglehold on you in that way to keep you discarding cards to pay for resources. That can be a real bummer. But I think that ultimately for me, it's kind of feels like a lot of the decision making is just kind of apparent, and you're kind of very much at the mercy of the deck. And I think that a lot of these things wouldn't be as big a problem as they were if it weren't for the fact that I have so many good head-to-head two-player games. you know, I think if we're gonna sit down for 60 to 90 minutes, um, you know, and I mean, it's not far off the running time of Twilight Struggle, you know, which is a two-player head-to-head historical card-driven game where it's better if you learn all the cards. In this, I do think there is an element of learning the cards that might be helpful, but because you have so little control over the draw, and you have basically nothing to do about your opponent's hands. There's like 2 cards that actually interact with your opponent's cards. And I'm not saying that that's better or worse. I'm just saying that because you can't really interact with their cards, there's not so much of a learning curve. Whereas, of course, because you've got a much more involved board state in Twilight Struggle, the card play is a lot more... the learning of the cards and the sort of the big effects they can have on the game state is much more of a thing. So I'm just thinking, you know, if I'm going to sit down and play this head-to-head game, I'd probably rather play that because I can teach it to someone and they can start learning those cards and learning how to play that game, and that will allow us, it's sort of an investment in future plays, right? Not that I'm any good at Twilight Struggle. I haven't played it all that much, and I can barely remember it, but the point is that would be the sort of the point you would be trying to reach, right? Whereas here, like, there's already 4 decks, but also I just don't think that it's that necessary to learn the cards in this. So maybe that would make it more fun on the first play, but also if you understand the game a bit better and you know how to sort of take out your opponent's resource cards, or, you know, use your hunt for your archers or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I keep saying these things like hunt for the archers, but the drafting variant is really the only way to actually do any of these things, because there's no card draw, really. There are the scholar characters who let you draw a card, and there's the 2, I think, on the Ottoman side who let you... I mean, there's, I think, some on the Spanish side as well that let you draw 3 and top deck 1. No, you bottom deck 1, put 1 in your hand and discard 1, which is, you know, fine, but again, we've got so many cards. The chances of you finding what you need are more limited. And there are these objectives there are rewards on the objective cards, which, you know, sort of have similar, sort of things like a sort of strategic elements. If you look at this one, it says, when destroyed, you must destroy 2 of your non-leader units or characters if possible, and then you can move on to the next objective, right? So when you're playing with this, in a 2-player game, you need to have 2 things you want to, or you don't want to, but you're willing to destroy. So the sort of, there's more strategy around timing when you complete these, which could be important if you're, you know, also trying to manage this race. So you're not just managing the amount of damage you do to these things, but also trying to manage their effects, and some are good and some are bad. But I just feel like it's sort of like the mechanisms of this game are constantly on the cusp of offering interesting decisions, but it just never feels quite like it gets there. And it's kind of a shame, really, because I think you know, Ollie got a huge kick out of the historical stuff here, and I'm really intrigued by it. And I actually learned stuff from playing these games. You know, the flavor text and the stuff about it's so well researched, and the art is so good, and it just really, as a sort of a historical piece, it's just really, 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 really good. But I just think that the game mechanisms just aren't amazingly well realized. And that kind of brings me to the solo mode, which is kind of clearly developed after the fact. And if I show you the flow chart, I'm wondering if I can bring it up here, that someone put together from, it was in the vein of I didn't download it. Damn it. There's a flow chart. It's one of the only 2 files, actually, for this game up on BGG. But someone put together this flow chart to manage the AI's decision-making process, essentially, and help you. Oh, I do have it here. Oh, it must be. No? Oh, I don't. The point is, I wanted to show you this flowchart because it's just so complex. And I think that's why, like, even at the end of this game, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I did it. Oh, it's a PDF. That's why. I guess I'll just have to open it in Chrome and share that with you. Um, but there's a huge AI decision making process, and if you wanted to, make sure you did this 100% correctly, I think the only way to do that would be to utilize this flowchart, which well, let's take a look at it, right? Hey, there we go. This is the PDF open in Google Chrome. So, sorry, I hadn't prepared this in advance. I thought it was a picture. But if you look at the flow chart here, right, you can just see this is the foe's turn, and so they're going to follow this process and wind up in one of the red boxes, which will end their turn. And then here is their unit/character development flowchart. So this is when the battlefield is full, the decision-making process they're going to follow. And this might be okay if it wasn't every other action, right? You know, the order of the turn is I do a thing, they do a thing, I do a thing, they do a thing. And every time they do a thing, they might draw one card. They're most likely going to draw a card. They might draw more cards. And they're going to follow this process like every time they draw one card. So they might be doing it twice before I get an action again. And that's too much. That's too many times to be executing this. The flowcharts for Root aren't this complicated. They're like 5 steps, you know? And so I think it's designed after the fact. And I mean, to be fair as well, like, I've heard that they're doing they're making a big effort to improve the solo mode for 1815, and they are I know that they talked about a bit on the Kickstarter page about speeding up the beginning of the game. Like I said, I played on hard just because the beginning of easy and normal is so slow, and you're constantly just going through that deck of cards, searching for cards the AI can play, and it's really laborious. And so they've talked about improving that, which is great, but I don't really want to have these games just to play solo. Like, I've got so many good solo games, and you know, like, at this point, like, games that work really, really well true solo. So I can't imagine a situation where I'd want to get. I mean, if I was super into history, maybe. One of the things that really excited me about the sets originally as well was that oh, that's wrong. Why did that happen? One of the things that really excited me about the sets originally was being able to play the armies off against one another. But I don't think, from the perspective of a gamer, a layman gamer looking only at mechanisms, I don't think the armies are distinct enough to make that particularly interesting. I think as a historical enthusiast who understood history and who would enjoy the fact that we're having an anachronistic, across history, head-to-head battle between two armies where one should probably almost certainly lose, but it's not going to because mechanically they're balanced, like the mechanisms are balanced. I might get a kick out of it, but but that kind of I'm not really sure who that's for, because I think that and that's the thing. Like, I think I thought 1066 had replayability. I know Ollie said in the final thoughts for 1066 that you could always swap sides, But I think having seen 4 decks, I don't think any one of the 4 decks stands out as being completely distinct. You can identify certain distinctions, like certain decks have more resources. Um, the Spanish in this game, they've got these bold characters that can capture artillery, which of course are also, I imagine, completely useless against the Saxons or the Normans. So I don't know how that would actually function. Um, Pretty much all it says about making the two games interact is you treat wedges, which are what they use in 1066. You've got these wedges instead of frontiers. Treat wedges as though they're frontiers, and you're pretty much good to go. Um, but the Spanish have these bold characters who can capture artillery, which makes sense for this context. Um, the Ottomans have sapper, this pulverized keyword that lets them do damage to frontiers or wedges before the Great Siege phase, which is rather unique. But then there's the other sort of keywords like tireless and relentless. They're common to all the factions, I think, and the flavor comes from the flavor text. The distinctions between the decks comes from the flavor text and the art, which means that I feel like they're not distinct enough. I think I even said as much about 1066. I said I wasn't sure if they were distinct enough in that, and I don't think that these two armies feel massively distinct either, in terms of mechanisms. Again, like they do in terms of art. These guys have the navy, these guys have the knights, they've got all the cool armor, these guys have all the cool cannons. But mechanically, like, cannons are basically archers that hit a whole row but damage themselves, you know? But the archers on the Spanish side, and they don't get any ranged units as far as I'm aware, but the ranged units on the Spanish side are the exact same as the Norman ranged units, are the exact same as the Saxon ranged units, and pretty much everyone follows this might zeal mechanism, you know, which is, of course, they have to, because that's the function of the game, but it just doesn't leave a lot of design space, I think, you know. So everything's got, like, you know, 4 might is an incredibly large amount of might, 1 or 2 is average, 0 sucks, but then you might have some other cool ability, but there's just not a huge range in there to make the cards distinct. So I don't know. I think that if you are, ultimately, to wrap up, I think that if you're a really enthusiastic history fan, this game will do things for you, and I don't think there's a lot of games that feel this thematically alive. I think a lot of history games look like GMT games, which are very, very dry, artistically sort of, I'm looking for a strong word here, artistically completely devoid. You know, they're void of art. They're just, art is completely absent. So, you know, this does a lot for as a sort of a historical piece, and they're well researched. But I just think as the mechanisms of the games, they just do it a huge disservice, and I don't think I'm going to be tempted to get these two out to play again. So I'll probably do a Patreon giveaway or something. You're welcome. Here, have these 2 games. But yeah, so I don't know. I think that's kind of my summary. I'm not going to back 1815, and I suspect after this I won't be getting a review copy either, which is fine, because I'm okay with that. But it is very unfortunate, because I really, really want that. I really, really want that to go well for Tristan. Like I said, he's a lovely guy, and I'm pleased to see that it's well funded already. So I suppose I'm just doing my own little part over here, to be honest with you guys who watch the channel. But yeah, I just I don't think that they're particularly mechanically compelling. And I'm thinking about other 2-player head-to-head games, you know, card games or anything, really. And like I said, Twilight Struggle seems the obvious comparison. It's a bit more involved to learn, I suppose. Are these games quick and easy to teach? Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know if I think Twilight Struggle is much more worth the time investment to learn. I've been playing quite a few dueling games. Like, I mean, they're not good comparisons, but dueling games I love. I really, really like Jaipur. That's a great game. I've been playing Seastead, which is pretty good. We've been playing Cosmic Encounter Duel, which doesn't very effectively capture Cosmic Encounter, but it does the best it can for 2 players, and it's actually a really fun little head-to-head game. I played Seven Wonders Duel against Chris, which I think, with the caveat of explaining very carefully how the science symbols work up front, that's a really fun little dueling game as well. And you know, if you were wanting to get to something a bit meatier as well, you know, like Super Fantasy Brawl, I know it's kind of not a card game, it's more of a miniatures skirmish arena battling game, but it's still a head-to-head 2-player thing. That's great fun. We'll be playing that. And of course, you know, when you're getting tired of all these things and you're ready for something truly meaty, you can come into Rebellion or War of the Ring, you know. So there's just all these great 2-player head-to-head games, and I just don't know where, you know, because 60 to 90 minutes, it's too long. So Missio says, I think this series will find its fans easily. It already has. Well, I'm super happy about that, Missio. Super happy there's fans out there. But I'm afraid I think I'm gonna. I really want to like the game. Like I said, it's a beautiful game. He's really done a great job on the production. Although I do have one final criticism before I go, which is that these games completely fail the ready, steady play box check. Because I've got a big board game collection, and I don't have this much space to waste. I know that it's nice to have big rule books so that we can read them all, but this is too much. Do you know when I got sent the prototype for this game? It was in a box like, you know, this big, like a tiny card box. And if they'd found a way to do that, that would be great. Then I would feel maybe less bad about keeping this on the shelf. But anyway, I think that's going to be my wrap up for Hebs. Oh god, wasn't there something about mitigating first player advantage as well? I can't remember now, but there's something, the first player gets something about the strength of being the first player. I don't know. Anyway, I think I've said enough. And I think at this point, you probably know whether this is something that you want to get involved with by this point or not. But yeah, so that's it from me. But thanks everyone so much for watching, and I hope this has been a helpful stream. And you know, I'll be back. I might be back. I'm trying to organize something with Chris tomorrow. If we can get that coming together, we might be playing something tomorrow. Otherwise, I might do maybe the end of Journeys in Middle Earth. That could be fun. But Missio, thanks so much for hanging out. I'm really glad that you were here and you enjoyed the playthrough. And to everyone who made it to the end as well, thanks so much and for hanging out. And once again, thanks so much to all the wonderful fans of the channel, the subscribers, the people who watch the content, the people who enjoy it. Thank you so much, and especially to my patrons on Patreon as well. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And without further ado, I shall roll the credits. Bye-bye!